Summer World Series title. Outfielder George Springer was named the World Series MVP. His 2-run homer in the third inning capped off Houston's scoring. It also ties a World Series record with his 5th home run of the series.
You know, that patch on our chest truly does mean a lot to us, and I'm so happy for all of our fans who have endured a lot, and we're coming home champions.
Springer and the crew on Fox TV after the win. The Astros victory parade will begin Friday, 3 Eastern, 2 local time near downtown Houston. Red Sox are adding Tony La Russa to their front office as a VP, working under President of Baseball Operations Dave Dombrowski. I'm Deb Carson.
Lost. Eddie Garcia.
A new study out of India finds that yoga can help infertile women get pregnant.
There's a higher clinical pregnancy success rate.
Dr. Kevin Duty, a reproductive specialist in Fort Worth, Texas, says 63% of women undergoing in vitro fertilization using frozen embryos conceived in the New Delhi study. That compares with 43% who got pregnant without yoga. He thinks yoga's ability to reduce stress is a major factor. 2 major studies show that people love dogs more than other humans. In one, British research.
I like your little footnote.
Nation
Yes,
campaign,
that's a you and me little note.
What?
5 pounds to save the pooch did much better than the one asking for the same amount to save the person. A subsequent study out of Northeastern University in Boston shows on the love meter, only a baby human can compete with man's best friend. Health updates.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I'm working on some things to try to help this station. It's like beating my head on a brick wall, but I think they're noticing that I'm beating my head on the wall.
Good.
So
They
that's
see you
a marked improvement.
They see you bleeding, and they're like, "All right, let's fix it."
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Only $49.
We live
So
on
get your
YouTube yet?
Yeah, we are.
Hi, YouTube.
What's
up?
Online at NOLA.com. Proceeds benefit.
My buddy Frank Lodato, he used to be my drummer in my band back in the day, pre-Katrina. He says he likes listening to the YouTube feed because of all the content during the commercial breaks.
I figured that if that doesn't drive you there, nothing will.
Yeah, right.
Of tomorrow's release, the Pop Robbers gave fans a new song titled Wait. It's the group's 6th release this year, including the current hit, What Lovers Do. Red Pill Blues will be the band's 6th album.
I was too late, I was too...
All right, 2 minutes.
A shadow of what I once was.
Chance the Rapper is starring in an upcoming horror film. The trailer for Slice was dropped on Halloween with a 2018 release date. The trailer looks like the old video game Line Rider, with a moped driving on and jumping off various lines. Legendary actor Dustin Hoffman is facing sexual harassment claims. A woman says she was...
Oh, did he show up on time?
Death of a salesman, when she says Hoffman repeatedly sexually harassed her.
I still think we should cut off his mic for about 5-10 minutes before we do that.
About sex in front of her.
I should have been sitting there. I should have made you sit over here to the side. Be like, hey guys, Jeff's really here.
Punished.
Saying he's sorry for anything he might.
Hey guys, Jeff's really here, but because he's late, just like with his picks last week, he gets to sit to the side now.
You're just gonna have to do percentages.
Oh yeah. I've already got what he's gonna do today. I've already got what his record's gonna be.
From Nashville's Bridgestone
My average.
next Wednesday night on ABC.
Yeah, listen to
That's
this.
entertainment. Aaron Reed, NBC News Radio.
We'll make sure we mention that tomorrow.
Zika is still a threat, and its effect can be devastating. To prevent Zika, use insect.
Dude, there's a reason why.
Let's keep stopping Zika.
No
Visit
way.
cdc.gov/prevent Zika. This message from the
All right, you gotta
Disease
send
Control and
Dave.
Prevention.
If you need a payday loan fast, try lendup.com.
Thanks for showing up today, Jeffrey.
I was texting with him last night. Like during the game, he was just like, "There's no point in me
with
not
no hidden
texting
fees
back with you."
and good credit is
like,
not required.
Yeah.
Visit lendup.com. Lendup is a licensed
credit services
organization, not a direct lender in Ohio and Texas.
But he's like the only
Subject
Dodgers
to
fan I've
availability
ever
in your
known probably in my
Lendup.
life.
My landlord is like
The better way to borrow.
a grand.
Well, there's an old bartender. She
5 seconds.
B-word is minutes away on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Dunc and Holder on a Thursday, November 2nd, live at our NOLA.com Times-Picayune studios. Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdun is here on Thursdays as always, manning the picks booth, manning the...
It's going to be a great day.
Oh, boy.
I can't wait. Jeff was late. We should have made him sit over the side table where no one on the YouTube live stream can see him.
Clyde was ready to take over your seat because last week you left early and Clyde jumped in the seat and YouTube loved him.
They loved it.
Predictably.
They loved it.
There's nothing wrong with that. We all love Clyde.
And I love everybody.
We miss Clyde when he's not here.
Yes, because things break, and then we need Clyde to help us over here.
Yeah, the other day we had some major YouTube issues, but we overcame it.
Absolutely, and now we're rocking and rolling on the YouTube feed. And look, got a jam-packed show. I can't even believe we're going to try to smash all this in, but we're going to do it in our 2 hours. Around 10:20, we're going to talk to our own Josh Katzenstein of NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, talk Saints, Bucks, some key injuries on the injury report, and this morning, big accolades for one, Marshawn Lattimore named the Rookie of the Month on the defensive side of the football. On offense, you could probably predict who the offensive best player was, Deshaun Watson from the Texans, but Marshawn Lattimore getting the credit that he deserves. So we'll talk about that matchup. And yeah, the injury report certainly probably has some people nervous, and we'll talk with Josh about that. Around 10:35, we will talk with USA Today's Jarrett Bell, the NFL columnist, longtime NFL columnist for USA Today. We'll talk with him about kind of the national scope of where he feels like the Saints fit in, the NFC, and anything else we can think of. Then around 10:50, Jeff is getting his vice on here on the show. He's using it for his own devilish deeds.
No, we're going to have Chad Schecksnyder. He's a local handicapper, used to be the Fairgrounds PR manager, and we're going to talk Breeders' Cup, which starts tomorrow out in Drew Brees' off-season hometown, Del Mar, California. And it's basically the Super Bowl of horse racing, so we'll get a little insight. I know you're going to learn a lot during that 10-minute segment about how this is the fall version of the Kentucky Derby. Actually, it's bigger.
I may learn a lot because I know nothing, so I'm just going to jot down what you guys say and put like $1 on each. And if we go any way like your NFL picks, though, I will be losing every dollar that I own.
We said we wouldn't talk about this until tomorrow. Why are you giving away the rub, man? Let's save that for tomorrow.
We will, but I'm just teasing an epically, historically bad weekend on NFL picks.
Pretty true,
Jeff.
Pretty true. I can't defend it. I mean, there's no defense.
It's in print.
It's hard. It's now, but I'm looking forward to talking to Chad, who actually is married to one of your old LSU classmates.
Yes, this is true.
That's amazing. Small world. So we'll visit with Chad right before.
New Orleans is a total small world. So of course you're 2 degrees separated from like everyone in this city. There's no question.
Dana had some interesting stories to tell about LSU Larry.
I'm sure interesting is code word for incriminating. So I'm just going to probably leave it at that because she's seen me at my highest and at my lowest of college, probably. Stream of consciousness. So we'll talk with Chad around 10:50. Top of the 11 o'clock hour, Ron Higgins, our LSU SEC columnist, will join us. Of course, LSU Bama Week continues, and we haven't talked with Ron yet about the firing of Jim McElwain, and so we'll get his thoughts on that and who else's jobs are on the line. And it's a stunner that Jim McElwain was actually the first fired. Not that he was fired, but the first one fired. Also, we're going to have Jim Derry stop in studio. He's going to give us a short preview on the big high school game tonight. Clyde, what game we got going on tonight? Because you're part of the live coverage we do here at NOLA.com of our big prep games of the week.
Yeah, we're going to be at Tad Gormley tonight, closing it down. This is week 10 of the season, guys. So obviously right now the biggest thing is that we're looking at every game counts for either district championship places or power rankings going into next week, going into Sunday, which the playoff games are announced. But tonight we'll be at Tad Gormley for a big matchup, Carr and Easton.
Definitely a big matchup. Yeah, absolutely. They've been 2 of the stud teams throughout the season, so we'll get a small preview on that, and Jim's going to join us tomorrow on his regular segment to kind of break down the rest of the landscape. But since he's going to be in the office today, might as well pop in and
might as well. He's used to it now.
Exactly. Oh, he might boot you out of the chair,
yes,
Jeff. He
I
might
would say
I'm taking over.
That's fine. I'm fine with giving up my seat.
I'm leaving. I'm out of here.
I'll go get a coffee during that time. But we got to discuss the Pelicans losing again last night. I mean, come on.
I was saving that for now.
And we'll talk a little bit about the Cavs getting trucked again at home.
I think we need to talk about the NBA in general.
Let's talk about that victory against the Cavs not being nearly as impressive as everybody thought.
Well, any win is impressive just because they don't get too many of them. Now they're 3-5 and they lost
4-game road trip coming up.
Yeah, they lost to the Timberwolves last night, and it seems like they tried to draw you back in a couple of times. They'd go down, come back, go down, come back, and then in the final minutes, minute, Drew Holiday runs into the lane, throws the ball to no one, and there goes the neighborhood, and the Pelicans lose again to the Timberwolves. And it's something I knew you were going to come in all spitfire because of the turnovers. Boogie had a ton of turnovers. The team in and of itself had a bunch of turnovers, and I knew you were going to come in on fire today.
Well, I mean, all I heard about was how they had that bad game against the Magic, and they were going to come out and light it up and turn things around, and they were behind the entire game. I mean, literally, I think they tied the game once.
I think they tied it twice.
Twice, but the last time it was 77-77. They basically went on a run. I think it was like an 11-0 run in the third quarter to tie the game up at 77-77. That's when I think everybody thought that the Pelicans were going to find that extra gear to take the game over, especially with what was happening with Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yes.
Karl-Anthony Towns was held to a career.
He looked like he'd been on Bourbon Street all Halloween night.
Well, he was
awful.
Apparently, he's been under the weather. He was sick.
Is that the excuse?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was
always
apparently
an excuse.
sick on Monday.
He got the French Quarter flu.
There's always an excuse. He was awful.
He was very bad. Although apparently he played and I think that's
scored 2 points.
And I think that's the thing that he's played bad against the Pelicans.
AD's owned him.
His Kentucky guys, I mean, he was getting beat up last night by DeMarcus Cousins. That block that he had, that cross-court block where he was trailing the ball.
Was that before or after one of his 8 turnovers? I can't remember.
That was actually a turnover 6, between 6, 7, and 8.
Okay.
But they were absolutely beating him up last night, which I think is probably the mindset for him or teams going up against Karl-Anthony Towns, is that you have to be physical with him. However, like you were saying to your point, though, the biggest thing about that game last night to me is that if Karl-Anthony Towns has a good game, the Pelicans are within 15 points of the Timberwolves last night.
He was in foul trouble,
That's
too.
Exactly right.
He was in massive foul trouble. Now, look, you say 77-77. They tied it 98-98.
No, they tied it late.
They tied it late.
Didn't finish.
With a $1:45 left,
and
DeMarcus Cousins with 2 free throws.
I understand the play that they were trying to do at the end. I understand what Drew was trying to do. He was trying to get the Minnesota defense to collapse on him so he could kick back out for the 3. But the thing was that they were playing so far out wide that they knew he was not going to go in for the shot. So they were able to play a little bit off base so that if he tried to kick it out, there was going to be somebody there to steal the ball. And that's what it looked like to me what happened. So they were playing a little bit more relaxed because they knew they were going for the 2. They needed the 3. They were going to go for the go to the bucket to try to get the basket and the foul. So they were able to play a little bit more kind of like it was a man-to-man, but it was kind of more of like a little bit of a soft zone too, so that they could get in those tight spaces to try and steal the ball.
Well, a lot of teams go to the basket there and just get the quick 2, and then you get into the foul situation where you foul. And Jimmy Butler was struggling from the line. He was a 91% free throw shooter coming in. At one point, he was 4 for 7, I think. He was struggling. He didn't play particularly well, and neither did Wiggins. But once they tied the game, the T-Wolves called timeout, and they did exactly what I thought they would do. They'd go to one of their wings, either Butler or Wiggins, and they had the matchup advantage against the Pelicans. They were trying to use Etuan Moore and Holiday on those guys, and they couldn't check either one. They're too big. And they went to Wiggins. He got an easy bucket in the lane. Butler made that incredible and one shot from the wing and gave him a 3-point lead, and it was too difficult to overcome.
Well, Anthony Davis missed an 11-footer that looked like it could have gone in.
Yeah.
Tony Allen misses a gimme at the
although he got fouled and they didn't call it.
Oh God, here we go. There's always excuses, man. I'm tired of these excuses.
They would have called that if there was a different point in time in the game. They would have called that foul.
I don't want to hear it. DeMarcus Cousins, every time they breathed on him, they called a foul.
Well, I mean, he did get hit in the face 4 times.
Oh, how do we know that? Because he was flopping around the entire time. Anytime somebody touched him, he's so dramatic. I think other players are getting hit in the face and all the time. They're not flopping around playing to the officials.
One of the shots, I think the last one he took to the face, looked like someone got near his nose and he went like, oh,
exactly.
And he flew backwards.
The guy's elbow.
Yeah, he ran into Taj Gibson.
Taj Gibson's elbow didn't even move when it supposedly hit him so bad he had to go get treatment from the officials. Look, DeMarcus Cousins is an incredible talent. I don't want people to think I don't think he's a good player. He's a great talent. He's the best big man in the game. He has rare ability to take contact and score in the lane. No one really in the league can check him, but there's a lot of other things that come with him, and that is the dramatics, the constant whining to the officials, the constant lapses on defense, and the turnovers. And I don't necessarily blame DeMarcus Cousins. I'm questioning how the Pelicans are playing their offense through him and putting him in a position. Yes, he is a good passing big man, but he's also erratic, and you can't have a guy funneling the offense through that has a 1-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. You can't, and that's what they're trying to do right now, and I'm very, very skeptical.
I think a lot of people are wondering, why don't they attack the basket more? And when you've got two big guys, why don't you attack the basket? I think that's a big concern. And, look, lapses in defense get you behind and you're having to storm back. And, oh, well, guess what? When you got to storm back all the time, look, it's something that you've got to be able to not get behind the eight ball like that. And you constantly do it, and no wonder you're going to get there and then fall back, and you're going to get there and you fall back, and we've seen it so many times.
Yeah, where's the sense of urgency out of the gate, especially after losing the game at home to the Magic, who I think I think they actually lost last night, but I just think we've got a lot of questions with this team that go beyond Solomon Hill and Rajon Rondo being out. It's some of the same problems that they've had in the past, and look, they're getting ready to go on a 4-game road trip. They need to come back 2-2 from that trip. I don't know if they will, but they're behind the 8 ball again. They're 3-5, incredibly deep Western Conference, and Minnesota, as Clyde said, did not play their best game last night and still controlled that game throughout because I think they had better defense, took care of the ball a little better. They just took care of some of the details in a game like that where everybody's kind of evenly matched. That's the difference between winning and losing.
Absolutely, and you go on the 4-game road trip coming up, and what's going to happen? I don't know. Look, Timberwolves, because you go away from the Smoothie King Center, things happen on the road, you know?
Although we're saying that, and literally they just came off of a road trip where they played better than most and were able to have a winning record.
Well, they beat the Lakers and the Kings.
I was about to say the Lakers and the Kings.
At the same time, though, but they're going against the Dallas team that has only one win. They're going up against a couple teams that only have one win. So it's not like we're talking about teams.
They got to go 2-2.
You're right, and that's possible, but I don't think we should probably disclaimer it to say that their last road trip they went up against bad teams. This trip they're going to go up against bad teams. And I think the bigger question that we have to talk about is the idea of, like, we need to talk about the NBA. We need to talk about specifically how everybody was writing off the rest of the season. Oh, the Warriors are just going to dominate. Wake me up in June whenever it's the finals and the Cavs and the Warriors are playing in the finals. We're talking about, here's the teams that we're talking about. We're talking about the Magic. We're talking about the Clippers. We're talking about Indiana. We're talking about the Grizzlies.
I agree. I think that's a good point, Clyde. It's been more wide open, but how much of that is just the season's so long?
We're 8 games in the season.
Yeah, right. And the big powerhouses don't start paying attention till
right, and a lot of the big teams have injuries. Isaiah Thomas isn't playing until after the new year for the Cavs. Guys like that, we're still waiting for Oklahoma City to kind of continue to be that team. And then it's individual talent. People talking about the Bucks and Giannis, talking about the Knicks and Kristaps. I think the biggest thing, though, is that this is what people have said that they want about the NBA. They want it to be a little bit more open. They want teams that aren't traditionally powers to play well. And we're starting to get that, which should be good. It just, in terms of what we're talking about specifically locally with the Pelicans, I think the Pelicans are right now a team that is struggling to find an identity with its top guys out, but it doesn't mean that they are going to be, I think, in my opinion, this kind of up and down team the rest of the season, because basketball is a game of runs. It's just picking those runs at the right time and hopefully getting the other teams not to go on those runs.
Let's take a break right here on the show. One more guest we just added. 11:20, we will have CBSSports.com and national college football writer Dennis Dodd is going to join us. So jam-packed show. today. And, yeah, it's flying fast today. Just like, man. Well,
at least I got my soapbox out of the way.
Exactly. But we needed to because it deserved it, because it was frustrating to watch.
Right.
It's just...
And we're not the only ones, I think.
No, it's frustrating to watch. You're just like, oh, we're watching the same thing again and again and again. And it's... The Pelicans at least are 3-5. They're not 0-8. But that's like the silver lining, and that's not the good silver lining you need to be having. So coming up next, Josh Katzenstein, NOLA.com, Times-Picayune Saints reporter. We'll talk Saints-Bucks here next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Duncan Holder.
The thing that I think
So I
about...
reached out to Dennis like 2 days ago, and he he's
just like,
hey, come on now. He's like, come on now. I'm like, all right, well, Derry's bumped.
Sorry, Jimbo.
No, we'll just have to do a short 11:30 segment and then do the end college picks.
200.
Ram right there.
Yeah, he's gonna have to be like a 3 or 4 minute segment. All right, yes, you heard. We got another guest. Let me send you his number.
All right.
This is Tulane football. The Cincinnati Bearcats come to town Saturday, November 4th. Catch all of the action right here on your home for the Wave.
Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Atlantis.
All right, we got Josh.
Expresses itself as an endless flow.
So what time are we squeezing this dude in?
11:20.
11:20. Okay.
At heart.
I'm gonna email it to you.
For the best winter rates at 1-800-Atlantis or AtlantisBahamas.com.
All right.
Apple is upgrading its free music production service, GarageBand. Version 2.3 makes things a little more versatile, adding a sound library where you can browse and download free instruments and sound packs. Apple now offering a strong array of Asian instruments, including taiko drums. Apple's chord and autoplay functions make it easy to integrate the instruments into whatever you're working on. Credit Karma is getting into the car business, known for free credit reports and financial advice. The website wants to be the center for your automotive information as well. And you can view a number of things like your DMV profile, the value of your car, and whether or not your model vehicle has been recalled. It's November, so holiday shopping season is right around the corner, and Amazon is, of course, prepared. The retail giant now promoting their Countdown to Black Friday event and is offering some interesting deals, including a 65-inch 4K TV from Samsung for under $1,000, a big discount on the wildly popular Yi Home security camera, and a refurbished Dyson vacuum for just $150. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
I should have scheduled it for another time.
If you're a pro, you don't buy a little of this or that.
Uptown.
You buy a lot of this or that.
How is
And at the Home Depot, you save.
I don't know why I looked at it.
Save up to 15% in bulk discounts on
And then we got
$11 billion.
Yeah, like 3M, Loctite, and liquid nails. As a pro, you work hard for your money. You shouldn't have to pay up to 15% in bulk discounts.
Let's go. Let's hope, baby.
Only at the
Unbelievable. Larry and I'll be living large.
Well, I was because I'm doing a
30 seconds.
I'm putting
Super
call Knicks
Saturday.
in,
Shop early version until 1
today,
p.m. to
since we
save
didn't write
big
about
and take an extra 20%
I
off with an extra
forgot I asked the
20%
question.
off.
Yeah.
Men's vests.
Jeff's
are
house, son, you got any advice for him? Don't buy in California. It's too expensive.
Only $10.39. Plus, only at Kohl's, get Kohl's Cash to spend on your next purchase. Presents for them, Kohl's Cash for you. Give joy, get joy. This Saturday only at Kohl's.
Select styles. 20% offer valid November 1st to 7th with promo code Frosty20. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
I'm gonna trade this life for fortune and fame. I'd even cut my hair and change my name.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Welcome back to the show. Joining us right here, Josh Katzenstein, NOLA.com, Times-Picayune Saints beat writer. And Josh, Saints have won 5 in a row. I know you, me, Jeff, and many others did not anticipate this coming out of the gate. But, Josh, you look at this team and you look at kind of the way they've been winning games. What's maybe impressed you the most about this 5-game winning streak? And we're talking about the first place New Orleans Saints. I would not have thought I would have said that after week 8 of the season.
I mean, it has to be the overall defensive play, and then you break it down further, and I'd probably say the pass defense, and then you break it down even further, and I would say Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, I feel like I talk about this guy so much, and I write about this guy so much, but he's so good, and he won Defensive Rookie of the Month for October, and I mean it's well deserved. I mean he's been playing at a all-pro level. I mean, quarterbacks are scared to throw at him. No matter who he's covering. I mean, he's taken Brandon Cooks out of a game. He's taken Devontae Adams out of a game. I mean, he's made plays on the ball when it does get thrown to him, and I mean he's just been so reliable since week one, and I think it's really impressive. And at this point, it's hard to tell that he's a rookie, but at the same time, you have to remember that he's 21, so there's reason to believe that he could be even better. But I think when you look at, the coverage that he's provided, as well as Ken Crawley and Kenny Vaccaro playing in the nickel, that's given the pass rush more time to get home, and, they've taken advantage of those opportunities. And, the linebacker play has been better. Dennis Allen has been calling better games defensively, and I think just the defensive play has been so much better than really anyone outside that building expected. And at this point in time, it doesn't really seem like there's reason to expect that to dwindle anytime soon.
Josh, the Eagles made a big splash this week trading for Jay Ajayi, and the Seattle Seahawks also made a move getting Dwayne Brooks to solidify their offensive line. Were you surprised the Saints did not make a move? Was there anything that you thought they might do to shore up their lineup at the trade deadline?
No, I don't think so. And this comes back to, the reasons that I think Mickey Loomis and, that front office get so much criticism, because they don't have very many assets. Like, I mean, the best they could have done is maybe traded like Alohi Kakaha, but, is that really worth giving up your defensive end depth to get a day 3 pick or something like that? And obviously not. But, and they would have had to give up, a high pick to get anyone good. And I mean, Dwayne Brown, as good as he is, the left tackle, it's not like he was going to come in here and start ahead of anybody. I mean, the only, I think, I don't really think there are any starting spots that they really needed to upgrade. Maybe you could have improved the depth, but no, I sort of expect them to stand pat. And I mean, obviously that's not going on a limb, because most teams stand pat during the trade deadline in the NFL. But I wasn't surprised, and ultimately, I mean, I think if this is a team that's going to contend in the playoffs, they're going to be doing it by playing how they are now and with the guys that they have right now.
Josh Katzenstein, Saints beat writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Josh, you look at the injury report, and it seems kind of daunting. 3 of your offensive linemen starters missed practice yesterday. Teron Armstead, Larry Warford, and Andres Pete. We know Warford, at least we anticipate Warford's going to be out this week. We anticipate that Teron Armstead will play because he's been able to be limited. Last week he didn't practice Wednesday, limited Thursday, full Friday. But Andres Pete kind of pops up. Just kind of your thoughts on the injury report and how concerned should Saints fans be with these 3 missing practice yesterday?
So Pete has been dealing with his hip injury for the past couple weeks. If you remember, he popped up on the injury report 2 weeks ago. I believe it was before the Packers game, and it was like on a Thursday that he showed up after practicing in full on Wednesday. I don't think there's anything to be too concerned about. When we walked out onto the field, both Pete and Armstead were walking off. So, I mean, clearly they're, involved in parts of practice that we're not watching. They might not be participating, but, I think they're probably going through, the week as if they're going to play. So until we have any reason to believe otherwise, I'm going to expect both those guys to play. Like you said, I don't think Warford will be playing, just based on the NFL Network report from a couple weeks ago that said, he had a, long-term injury. Obviously, the Saints didn't put him on, injured reserve or anything like that. So, I mean, you have to expect that he'll be back eventually, but I think it's too soon to expect that right now with his abdominal injury. But, the offensive line played well last week without Warford, with Senio Kelemete. Is probably one of the top offensive line backups in the league. And that's something we probably don't talk a lot about because, the offensive line play around the NFL is so bad right now. When your starters are bad, your backups are worse, and the Saints have been really fortunate that they have some decent backups and guys that have been playing well.
Josh, I want to go back to that trade deadline because I'm all into trades. We got a lot of questions from our listeners about that, and people were bringing up, should they have made a move for Jarvis Landry, T.Y. Hilton we heard a lot about. And my point back to them was, hey, Ted Ginn Jr. is that guy. I mean, he's their kind of deep threat. You wrote about him this week, how he's surprised even Drew Brees with his contributions so far and his veteran leadership. I don't think they needed any of those guys, do you? I mean, I think Ginn is basically their replacement, if you will, for Brandon Cooks.
Absolutely. That's what they thought when they signed Ted Ginn, that, he was going to fill that role. And I think people, they just see the name Ted Ginn and they're like, oh, this guy's had problems throughout his career, like yada, yada, yada. But ultimately, one of the reasons Brandon Cooks wasn't happy here was because he was in sort of this limited role where the coaches just really treated him like a deep threat. And so now Ted Ginn fits that role perfectly, and he's not going to complain about that because it's a lot of the same stuff he's been doing throughout his 11-year career, and he's done it well. I mean, he's second on the team in receiving yards. He has 8 20-plus yard receptions, and really, if you look at the way the Saints spread the ball, I mean, it's not like anyone else who comes in here is going to draw that much more attention than Ted Ginn has, from Drew Brees so far. So, I mean, if you're doing that, you're just doing it to make the slightest upgrade, while at the same time, diminishing the role of someone who has been productive. So I just didn't really see, why that was an issue. And, I mean, the Saints offense has done so well with Drew Brees and Sean Payton, when they haven't had good receivers. And right now they do have good receivers. So when I saw that fake T.Y. Hilton thing, I was just like, that doesn't even make any sense. But I guess, fans, to them, new is always better. So, but no, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's been good, and I mean, he'll probably drop one next week because we're raining down all this praise on him. But, I definitely think the Saints feel comfortable with him being their number 2 receiver.
Josh, what are the expectations for Delvin Breaux? Obviously, he is fired up. He's ready to play. He's screaming about, not necessarily screaming, but he's kind of shouting from the mountaintops. He's ready to play and ready to be a contributor. What are your expectations for him, and how soon do you anticipate him actually getting into action?
Well, I'll just relay what Sean Payton said, because I honestly had no idea how they're going to utilize him. But Payton said that they're going to ease him back into the lineup. It's kind of going to be like what Willie Snead was doing. Obviously we haven't seen Snead get back to his typical role yet, so I don't know how long it'll take Breaux to get there. And the big reason why is because Ken Crawley has played well, and I mean, you could definitely argue that Crawley has had some moments, mostly just tackling, that have earned him, have opened the door for Breaux to come in and take that job. But I mean, you're definitely not going to take Lattimore out of the game for any reason. And then I think Crawley's played well enough in coverage that you can sort of overlook his handful of tackling miscues. But certainly if those continue, I think Breaux could get an opportunity. But I mean, P.J. Williams was playing all right too before Crawley took his spot. So I think Breaux is going to have to be really impressive in practice just to have an opportunity. There's certainly an opportunity. There's certainly a chance that the Saints will find a way to use 3 cornerbacks more than they have been right now. I mean, right now they're primarily using 3 safety packages with Vaccaro playing in the nickel spot, because that's something he did in college and something that he's done.
It's 10:33.
Well, but you could definitely move him back. If you're not happy with Von Bell, you can move Vaccaro back to strong safety, and then maybe add either Breaux or Williams in a 3 cornerback package. Again, not sure exactly how that would work. Williams would probably play the nickel. I think if Breaux was in that package, you might have Lattimore play the nickel, just because, the Saints coaches have said that they want him to be able to play nickel. But I really don't know, if the Saints are ready to mess with a good thing, because, their defense is playing so well. And, I think if you take Crawley out, then you definitely have to wonder if it's actually going to be better with Breaux. But, time will tell. I wish I had the answer, because I'm just as curious as you guys.
Josh Katzenstein, NOLA.com, Times-Picayune, Saints beat reporter. Follow him on Twitter at @JKatzenstein. Hey, Josh, appreciate it as always, and we'll be seeing you sooner than later, I'm sure.
Well, real quick, I need to say, because you didn't give me an intro where I could say hello, but if you guys introduce me with Nickelback again, I'm definitely hanging up.
Fair. Totally fair.
Another person.
I'm not the only person that thought that too, dude. I'm so sorry.
Another person trying to make they could do what they want.
Let's ask this, Josh. What would you prefer?
Now he's leaving to Nickelback.
But since we're in New Orleans,
damn right he is,
and that can just be my weekly intro. How about that?
He's now where you're leaving to Nickelback. Oh yeah, you're man. Thanks, Joshua. See ya.
Josh, thanks, bud.
Coming up next, USA Today's Jarrett Bell. We'll talk with him about the Saints, the NFC landscape, and where the Saints actually fit in his eyes. So we'll talk with Jarrett coming up here next Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app with Dunc and Holder.
Although that's really the only Nickelback song you can like and still not be terrible. If you go anywhere past that, though, you deserve ridicule.
Scanner thermometer.
Happy Thursday. Oh, we're getting all Nickelback for the rest of the day.
No, dude,
now.
shut up, dude. Dude, shut up, dude. I swear to God, I will pull every plug on this.
Who's worse, Nickelback or Maroon 5?
Cover and a stray shower.
Ooh, Maroon 5. Okay, that's coming up next.
Overnight with more
I love
around. We
I
could
can't
see
stand
patchy
this
fog
show anymore.
develop
I love
tomorrow
Dave.
morning. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shelby
Again, though, I
Latino.
think Maroon 5, for
Ready
me
for a bad,
personally,
cold,
like
and
you can
flu
play
season? Knowing when it's the
first
flu can
album
make a big
Maroon
difference in
5,
knowing when to call your
and then
doctor.
once you
The
get
best
past
way
that,
to
it gets
tell is
silly.
that the flu brings a fever, so be
I'm totally
prepared
okay
with
with
a
that.
thermometer.
Totally okay with that. What,
Are you
Dave?
still talking?
What? What, Dave?
Still talking?
Oh, yeah.
Objectified.
What?
Yeah, I am, bro. I am, bro.
Celebrities and world.
I ain't worried about you. I'm halfway across the city. You can't mess with me.
That's also true. That's also true. It would take me way too long to get in my car to come down there and tell you something.
11. Sometimes material things do matter. Objectified, airing twice Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, and again at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific, only on Fox News Channel.
The Houston Astros are World Series champions for the first time in franchise history, defeating the Dodgers 5-1 in Game 7 of the Fall Classic in Los Angeles last night. Astros second baseman Jose Altuve on what makes the team great.
I think the key was we stay very humble about the team we are. We all know how good and how much talent we have in that clubhouse, but we never take it for granted.
Astros outfielder George Springer gets the Willie Mays MVP award after tying a World Series record with 5.
All right, we got Jarrett.
Cool. This is great. You know, it's an honor, but it's not about me. It's about the team.
Pitcher Charlie Morton allowed just 2 hits, 1 run over the final 4 innings and gets credit for the win. In the NBA, 76ers center Jahlil Okafor says he wants out of Philly after the team declined to exercise his contract option. And the woes continue for the Cavaliers. 124-107 losers last night to the Pacers in Cleveland. That's sports. Jay Corwin, NBC News Radio.
If you're a pro, you don't buy a little of this or that. You buy a lot of this or that. And at the Home Depot, you save even more. Save up to 15% in bulk discounts on select pro-grade products from top brands like 3M, Loctite, and Liquid Nails. As a pro, you work hard for your money. You shouldn't have to work hard to save it. Up to 15% in bulk discounts on select pro-grade products. Only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. See store for details.
Put $1,000 in your hand. Win $1,000 every hour. Up to 16 times a day. Weekdays. Starting at 5 a.m. When you hear the keyword, text it to 200.
10 seconds.
And all day for a chance to put $1,000 in your hand on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Baby, I'm playing on you tonight. Hunt you down, eat you alive, just like animals.
Whether you bless those boys or take flight, we're talking your teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back, Dunc and Holder. Larry Holder, Jeff Dunc, and Clyde Verdane here with you in our NOLA.com Times-Picayune studios. And joining us right here on the show, Jarrett Bell, USA Today, national NFL columnist, jumping on, talking a little Saints, talking a little NFC. And Jarrett, appreciate you jumping on the show. And first off, just your thoughts on the Saints as a whole. I could tell you, Jeff and I are probably surprised that they're 5-2, especially given the start of their season and just the history of the Saints, at least recent history. Just your overall scope on what you've seen from the Saints so far this year.
Yeah, well, the one thing is I've not seen the Saints since opening night. I was in Minnesota for the first game, but, like you guys, after they start 0-2 and they're giving up a whole bunch of points, you go, okay, same old deal, right? Here we go again. And then they turned it around. And when you shut out Miami, you can only put so much stock into that, right? But I think the thing that really kind of impresses me from afar is the fact that they seem to be doing what they want to do, okay, in terms of having the balance on offense and then having the defense. And, I've talked to Sean Payton about this over the years when you kind of reflect back to the Super Bowl team, right, and how they had so much balance between the offense and the defense and the passing game with Breeze and the running game. And so I think that's always the design of any team anywhere, is to be able to have balance. And I think that they're achieving that. Now, the thing I wonder about now, because sometimes you can look at the schedule and you say, okay, well, you caught this team and that team at the right time, so you still have to do it over the long haul. But I wonder about their depth on defense. I mean, if I had to say, okay, well, where could this thing fall apart down the stretch? They've got so many young guys playing, and, testament to them to get them worked into the system and, to get the productivity. But now, you know how it is in the NFL, you always have fires you have to put out. So I wonder about the depth of the defense, but, I guess that's, that's a big positive when you compare it to kind of how things have gone in recent years.
Jared, I wonder about how they fit into the landscape in the NFC. It seems completely wide open right now. Obviously, Philadelphia's had a great start. They bolstered their backfield by trading for Jay Ajayi, and Seattle, who I think is, going to continue to be a contender there out west, and they trade for Dwayne Brown to bolster that left tackle position, which has kind of haunted them for a few years. Where do you think the Saints fit in the bigger picture of the contenders in the NFC?
Yeah, it's what you just said. It's wide open. I guess Seattle would be the team that would scare me the most if I'm, an NFC contender, in that they've been there before, they have their formula, and then if they get home field advantage, that's, a huge advantage for them. So I think it's kind of like with New Orleans. Well, first you got to win a division. So there's still a lot of that to be to be played. And, Tampa, for as down as they've been this year, I mean, it'll be a test because the Bucs always play them tough and all of that. So when you get to playing Atlanta again, I mean, going to Carolina and winning that game, a few weeks ago was obviously huge. But when you look at the whole landscape, I'm like you, man. It is pretty wide open. But with New Orleans, you always want to have that home field deal because you know how this team has been traveling on the road in the playoffs. It has not been a pretty picture. So they have to try to avoid that at all costs, and that's not going to be easy, especially with So you figure Philadelphia's got the running start here. They could stumble. Their schedule gets a lot tougher in the second half of the season. If you look at Philly's schedule, first half of the season versus second half of the season, they've got some road games, so they could. They could easily lose 3 games the second half of the season, still have a great season, and it may still be good enough for the number 1 seed. But I'm just saying that there is that, that possibility for teams that are trying to chase Philadelphia. But, when Aaron Rodgers went down, that just kind of changed the whole thing because it looked like Green Bay was really kind of, formulating itself to be as good as it's been, going into the playoffs as possible. But again, with the injuries in this league, man, stuff changes like that. So good deal from the Saints. And in the grand scheme of things, yeah, wide open is the best way to describe it.
Jared Bell, NFL columnist for USA Today, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Jared, I want to ask you specifically about 2 players on the Saints defense. Look, Cam Jordan's been with the Saints for a long time. And, he's made a couple of Pro Bowls, but I feel I wrote a column either a week or 2 ago, kind of a grand proclamation. I feel like he's the best overall defensive end in the NFL as far as the ability to play every down, stop the run, rush the passer. And then I want to have your thoughts on him and then Marshawn Lattimore, how quickly he's come in. We know he was the number 1 cornerback in the NFL draft this past year, but it seems to me like he's playing like a number 1 cornerback on like he's been there for more than just 6 or 7 games so far.
Yeah, and let's start with him because I think obviously with rookie cornerbacks they get to be such a big target, right? And so they're going to get tested. I think the thing that really kind of sticks out about him to me is that, you come out of that big-time program at Ohio State. You play with a lot of pressure and in a lot of big games. And, so he came here with a certain degree of, credibility for being able to perform on the big stage. So as I look at it right now, I mean, he's one of the top 2 or 3. I mean, obviously he's player of the week this week and the team's winning, but when you start talking about individual honors, I mean, it's only the halfway point, but, you start thinking about things like that. And I would put him in the top, 2 or 3 defensive rookie of the year candidates right now. And, New Orleans has had, several swings at trying to, land defensive backs and draft defensive players overall. So, maybe the pattern is turning there with him. As far as Cam, what do you say? Like you say, maybe the best defensive end in football when you look at the complete package. I don't know. I'd have to think about that a little bit harder, but I definitely think he's one of the most underrated players in the NFL. And so much of his effectiveness can be valued when the defense is doing well, which means the complete unit. So for that reason, you've got the guy, being the cornerstone, and then when things improve around him, then all of a sudden, you appreciate him a lot more. So, but we're talking about a couple Saints defensive players. Just think about it.
It's amazing. Jared, how long have we covered, have you been around this team and covered these guys, in big games, and we're talking about the defense stinking every year. I know it's like it's an aberration, but it's not. It seems pretty for real.
Yeah, but you also have to think about it in the context of, how many times they've really tried to do things to fix the defense, and that's with personnel and with switching out coordinators, multiple times. So to see them at this point right now, like I said, it's kind of like the design is working. At least it is right now, and getting Bro back will help, and things like that. So we'll see if it holds up. But they definitely have some talent to work with, and those 2 guys that you just mentioned, lead the pack, no doubt.
Jarrett Bell, NFL columnist for USA Today. Follow him on Twitter at Jarrett Bell. And just real quick, Jarrett, where are you going to be this weekend? Just curious.
I'm going to Dallas, and I'm going to see Kansas City and Dallas. And the Chiefs, I thought, were the most exciting team in football to watch, especially when they were undefeated, and they've got all this creativity on offense. And now Dallas, you kind of know their deal. Probably won't see Ezekiel Elliott, and I'll say probably just because there's so many twists and turns. But they've got to try to find a way to sustain themselves without Elliott for 6 games. And I think it's going to be a tough matchup for the Cowboys, just because Alex Smith is, and all the options they have on offense, they're going to put up a bunch of points. So looking forward to that. But I'll get to see New Orleans before too long. Looking forward to the second half of the season with them.
There you go. All right, hey, Jarrett, appreciate the time. I know you're busy. Really appreciate you hopping on the show. And, I'm sure we'll see you down the line, no doubt, in a press box near you.
Thanks, Jarrett. We appreciate it, buddy.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks, fellas.
Yep. You got it. That's Jarrett Bell from USA Today. Let's take a break right here on the show. And Jeff has been waiting to get the juicy scoop on the ponies and the Breeders' Cup.
Coming up, Chad Schexnayder. Looking forward to talking to Chad.
If I listen to Chad and I lose, do I get to retell some stories about maybe you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
that was fine.
Yeah. Okay.
You're making it out like Chad's an ATM, a human ATM or something.
Well, I don't know anything, so I'm gonna trust his word like it's gold. So Chad Schexnayder talking Breeders' Cup coming up next. Sports 1280 NOLA.com and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder. all Nickelback all the time.
I'm so angry right now. Dave, I swear to God, man.
Yes.
Never screw with me.
I swear to God, dude.
He's the one who
Never again, bro.
Why mess with the guy who just, he's got the power. You can't mess with Dave.
He's going to make us all suffer by listening to Nickelback and Maroon 5 in and out.
What's wrong with that, dude? I love it.
Come on, man.
I'm jamming.
The future is bleak for a child living in poverty. No school, no
Unreal.
job,
So
no
sad.
hope,
So
but
sad.
You can change all that when you become a Compassion Child sponsor.
Jeez,
Just
the
a little
show,
more than $1 a day.
got
brings
hopping
hope.
in quick.
Find out
Yeah, it's
how
going
at
fast. I like it.
compassion.com/radio.
Although when you got like 17 guests, I mean, that's kind of how it
Making your
goes.
budget last longer than it should.
When are we going to do college
accomplishment,
pickers?
But making
Last and quickly.
it should.
No, we're gonna do-
Dangerous.
Jim's gonna have to
Lucky
come in
for
with
you,
a literally
Pennzoil
keep
Full
that, like,
Synthetic is only
3 or 4 minute
$4.99 a
segment.
quart. Its
And then we're gonna
long-lasting
have to kill it,
formula and
and then
low
we'll
price can help your engine and your
time
wallet
for
go
the final
farther.
segment.
Pennzoil Full Synthetic
it
for
out.
$4.99. Quality parts, helpful people. That's Napa Know-How.
30.
General states pricing. Sales prices do not include applicable state, local
But
taxes or
that's the thing,
recycling
it's
fees.
like-
Offer ends 12/30.
All right, we got Chad.
All right, cool. It's like Jared was
Life
like, yeah,
expresses
like he just.
itself as an
I reached
endless
out. It took
flow
him a
of
couple
energy.
days to get back to me. Then I reached out to Dennis. It took him a couple days to get back to me, and it all like smashed together.
and
Right. Like, oh, I'm not gonna tell him. No, how about tomorrow? Like, do it now.
AtlantisBahamas.com.
Yeah.
Put $1,000 in your hand.
Win
Tomorrow we'll be playing a lot of.
Up to 16
probably
times
get a
a
lot
day.
of
Weekdays,
sound from like
starting
LSU.
at 5 a.m.
All right, 15 seconds.
The
Yeah,
keyword.
probably get a lot of
Text
sound.
it
You know,
to
I got some
200
stuff from
200.
the Saints,
Listen
so
all day for a chance
pretty
to put
heavy.
$1,000 in your hand on Sports 1280 New Orleans. This is Duncan Holder on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Clyde, you know this is your fault, right? You're the one who's complaining about the music, you and Josh, and now I'm fine with it.
First of all, I think Josh has every right to be very offended that the bumper music that he gets coming in is something as low as Nickelback. I mean, that's just so disgraceful by Dave. And I'm just saying, like, you got that, and then you got Maroon 5. Is that what we're gonna? And look, people on YouTube right now are unhappy. Rip LaBeouf, stop playing. You guys are killing me with all this bro rock. I'm just telling you guys, you gotta give the people what they want, and they don't want this. Dave, I'm looking at you.
Well, I want money, and Chad Schecksnyder better make me money because I don't even know which way they run around the track, the horses. So if Chad doesn't make me money, that's it. We can't do this anymore.
Chad, I've been trying to tell Larry that there's no such thing as locks in horse racing. Could you kind of inform him that you're not a human ATM?
No, there's definitely no things as locks in horse racing. Otherwise, I wouldn't be living the lifestyle that I'm living or in the house I'm living in.
Right. Well, we're welcoming him, Chad Schecksnyder. And Chad and I go way back all the way to his days as the press box manager at the fairgrounds. And Chad's one of the top handicappers. He has a regular day job, but on the side he will handicap the horses. And also, am I right now, you are now a full-blooded horse owner along with Doug Miller from the Saints?
Yeah, we have. I own about half of a tail of one that's actually going to hopefully get in first week of December at Fairgrounds, and we have a little fun with it. It's a big group of guys, a lot of people in on this, just a little syndicate, and we can see if we can have some fun this winter with this. And hopefully you can get Larry out there and broaden his horizon a little bit at the Fairgrounds.
I have no problem going to the fairgrounds. I just don't know what I'm doing when I'm out there. So I'm just drinking and burning money and betting on horses that I don't know. I just like the name. I mean, I'm pitiful. It's terrible.
Supporting the local economy.
Exactly. Well, Chad, I know Jeff's got his whole scoopage of questions. I'm going to let Jeff lead the way, and I'm just going to feverishly take notes. And 20 here, 30 there, 700 there.
Well, look, the Breeders' Cup starts tomorrow out at Del Mar. I'm curious, Chad, what are you going to be watching? First of all, I think for anybody handicapping the races, and this is basically the Super Bowl of horse racing. It's the Kentucky Derby in the spring is just for 3-year-old colts. It's very limited to the pool of horses. This is kind of the Super Bowl of all the horses and all the different events, fillies, mares, colts, juveniles. What are you going to be watching early on, and how do you think having it at Del Mar is going to affect the actual racing?
Yes, the first time ever it's held at Del Mar. It's pretty interesting. There's going to be 13 championship races. There's 4 on Friday tomorrow afternoon, and then there's 9 other ones on Saturday. And there's tons of storylines when you get into it, and you talk about Bob Baffert being the king of all these big races, and he's got 4 in the Classic. But the Europeans is what makes it interesting too, because you have horses from all over the world, and I think that's what makes it different from the Triple Crown Series with the Kentucky Derby. You have all these European influences coming over here that you don't really follow or know of if you're just a regular weekend horse player. But they certainly had intrigue, and guys like Aidan O'Brien has like 7 horses in on Saturday, and I mean he's breaking Bobby Frankel's record for most Grade 1 wins this year. So you got to pay attention to that. It's just a whole different handicap and aspect, and you just got to be right on days like this, Jeff. You don't have to be right every race. You just got to be right on 1 or 2, and you can really have a good day.
And for local fans, there are some local connections. Dallas Stewart, I know, has Forever Unbridled running. Tim Glashaw has a couple of horses running. And I think for people that might go back a ways, Gun Runner is one of the top horses in the world right now.
I've heard of that horse.
Now, he's going to have a big face-off against Arrogant in the Classic. But Gun Runner kind of started his career here at the fairgrounds, right?
Yeah, Gunrunner was the horse of the meet actually a couple of years ago. He swept the 3-year-old series at Fairgrounds, won the Louisiana Derby, and this horse has done nothing wrong. He's going to be in the $6 million Classic, the last race on Saturday, and he's surrounded by 4 Baffert horses in there. But look, Steve Asmussen, a Hall of Fame trainer. This is a really, really, can't really overstate it, but it's very important to him, Jeff, because you think about it, Steve Asmussen's a Hall of Fame trainer, but his 2 best horses, Curlin and Rachel Alexandra, both were kind of trained before, and he got them after they had started racing. So this is a horse he's had from the beginning. I think it really means a lot if he could put this horse on the big stage. And he almost won the World Cup with him, got run down by Arrogant in March, but since then they've gone in 2 different directions. And I really like Gun Runner on Saturday. I think he's going to bring his A game, and he's going to be tough to get past and stretch.
All right, Chad, before we let you go, we need some of your favorite horses in this 2-day card. Who do you really like that maybe fans can put $1 or $2 on? Larry can put a big 50-cent wager on, and maybe a long shot or 2 that you really like on this weekend.
You mentioned Dallas Stewart. Forever Unbridled runs tomorrow in the Distaff. I think she's got a huge chance. She's another filly who was at the fairground
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
A couple years ago, but it's gotten really, really good. They've been patient with her. I think she's worth a play tomorrow in the Distaff. Take a look at her maybe on top of Elite and Paradise Woods in that race, so you may be able to make up a couple dollars there. On Saturday, Jeff, we talked about it. Dallas Stewart has a couple of horses in, but my best plays, I guess, you're looking at the mile. I really like a horse called World Approval. That's from Mark Cassie. He's in the mile race on Saturday. I think he's turned into a really good horse, and he's hot right now. He's going to be tough to get past. And I love a horse named Lady Eli. You and I've talked about her before. She's in the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf. That's race 7 on Saturday. Mark her down. It's going to be her last race of an unbelievable career, and we don't have time to get into it, but she's overcome a lot in her life, and she's just a big sentimental favorite. I think she's poised for a really big effort on Saturday.
Well, there you go. So Larry is going to load up on all of those horses, and he's going to come in here rich this week, next week, and buy us all dinner.
I'm going to call Chad Mr. ATM Scheck-Snyder. That's going to be his name after this segment. Hey, Chad, appreciate you jumping on the show. Great insight, and we'll definitely have you on down the line when we get to some of the bigger races. I know Jeff will have to have it, and then I'll hey, man, I've heard of Gun Runner. I've heard of it.
We're going out to the fairgrounds.
Oh, you have to, yes. I need an education.
Jeff doesn't show up on work. Larry, if Jeff doesn't show up on work on Monday, you'll know why.
Or he's like just $1 million man with like a gold belt and diamonds.
30.
Hey, Chad, appreciate it. Chad Scheck-Snyder, appreciate it jumping on the show. Good insight. So hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. This show is flying by. It's because all kinds of great information. Coming up next, Ron Higgins, then followed by Dennis Dodd from CBSSports.com. We'll be talking LSU Bama with both guests. So come on back to Nickelback Thursday. Oh, you gotta love it.
Yes, well.
Gotta love it here on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
And Nickelback.
No one is gonna we're gonna lose people from this show. It's gonna be Dave's fault. I ain't taking a single blame.
Ever.
I'm never gonna take blame for this.
Listen to the radio and watch the
Thursday, yeah.
Radio reaches 93% of Americans.
Canadians rock.
More than TV.
I can say this right now more than anything. This is probably the worst day of the show.
Here's Drums Thursday.
Yeah.
This is probably the worst day. This is probably the worst show we've ever done, guys.
Get the most.
You're welcome, man. I'm glad I could be a part of it.
iHeartMedia.com.
Dave, I love it.
You can
great.
I do too.
Man, Chad was freaking really good.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, that was really good.
Free carpeting
we'll get him on like
solution,
fairgrounds.
free carpeting
We'll
solution.
go out there one day.
And free.
You need to bring me,
Includes clearing
yes.
out
Yeah, we'll go out
furniture,
there because like
ripping
him
out
and
old
Doug
carpet,
and all those guys.
Hauling it away.
Yeah, those what? It was like
with no hidden
those.
fees.
Flat out there.
Don't they do it in the spring where they have like those nights on like Fridays or Saturdays where they do
installation?
Only
Clyde, you ever been?
No, I've never. The only time I've ever been is
to go for the gimmick.
Yeah, I've never been.
No, we'll just go out there one day and
square foot.
Yeah.
have lunch and like
maybe priced separately.
make a few bets. Set
We go
paddock.
after the show because that's
Perfect timing.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take a day off because I mean, shoot, by that point I'm not gonna have anything to do.
Yeah, we'll go sit in the paddock and hang out. It's fun.
Nice.
It's fun. They used to have an oyster bar out there. And
Really?
closed it. It's coming up. No, it's coming up. I got to do the big story on
Fox Sports trending now.
Well, the Astros victory parade will begin a Friday at 3 Eastern, 2 local time near downtown Houston on Smith and Lamar. Last night, Game 7 starter Lance McCullers said what the city means to them after the Astros beat the Dodgers 5-1 in Game 7 to capture their first ever World Series title.
I don't think you can put it into words what it means to the people of Houston. Man, this is, we wore that patch and we wore it proudly. And the people of Houston were never far from our minds.
I mean, I hope he understands that.
It's too much as much as we do, man.
If he really wants to make
George
money,
Springer, who had 5
he'd
home
do that.
runs in the series, was named the World Series MVP. In other baseball news, the Red Sox are adding Tony La Russa to their front office as a VP, working under President of Baseball Operations Dave Dombrowski. UConn a unanimous #1 in the preseason women's hoops poll. I'm Deb Carson.
Everyone does it in the living room, the garage, at the kitchen
Well, I know
table.
he's
Everyone you
way
know,
into what he
your
does,
kid's
but
teacher, the neighbor, the
do it
coffee
his
guy.
own
Hey, you're doing it right now. I'm talking about listening to radio. Radio is huge, and radio ads like this connect with 93% of Americans a week. That's bigger than TV, Facebook, and Google. So if you're a marketer with radio, you reach more of who you want. More boomers, more Gen Xers, even more millennials. So get to iHeartMedia.com for the one place everyone is. AM, FM radio. Come on, everyone's
around
doing
here
it.
love hearing from him because you're like,
The U.S. economy is improving at a solid
quarterback.
Hurricane. The Federal Reserve's post.
Man, he went to a Super Bowl with the
Cowboys. Not to raise interest rates this time, but it's now likely to happen in December. A mixed October for U.S. car makers. Ford sales rose 6.5% over October last year, fueled mostly by a 16% surge in sales towards F-Series pickup trucks and better fleet sales. General Motors sales were down 2% overall, and Fiat Chrysler off 4%. The major delivery companies, UPS, FedEx, and the Postal Service are all expecting to smash package shipping records this holiday season because for the first time ever, online sales are expected to exceed store sales.
Companies like UPS and FedEx have been pouring billions into their networks to
you know who else would say that he was
year-round process
he
that
was a
will be
gamer?
put to the ultimate test
It's
in the month of December.
hilarious. His 4K. He
Prepare,
always
UPS
claims
is hiring
himself as a
95,000
gamer.
workers.
Yeah, some people
opening
are
more
bad
facilities,
practice.
putting
I
3
used to
new
play basketball
Boeing-made
with a
jumbo
guy
jets into
who was
the air
awesome in practice,
and
but
ramping
couldn't
up
play
its
the
Saturday
games. I mean,
deliveries.
Right, he could just shoot the lights out
It was unbelievable. He's like one of our best players.
Still so strange.
And he could not play in the
With
game,
analysts
man.
are watching closely
He got too
since
nervous.
rising costs have been an issue during previous holiday
Thought about
seasons.
From an investment
He was one of those
standpoint,
guys, too.
I
I don't know if
think the
y'all
market
play
is
with a
really
guy
looking
like
to
this.
see if
He'd
UPS
like
can
miss a
handle
layup
the scale
and act like
of
he
the
got
network.
hurt.
To
You know,
the
and we're all like, okay, you know, at first we didn't know what was going on, and then after a while,
For its
you're
part,
like,
FedEx plans to hire 50,000 additional workers.
yeah,
and
you're
the
like
Postal
using that as
Service
an
is
excuse.
considering
Sort
expanding
of like Boogie
Sunday
Act like that
package
hit you in the
deliveries
face
during the holiday
5 times in one game.
Expect to pay more for your Christmas tree this year. Shortages are deepening from
Like
the
no one
country's
else ever gets,
2 top
you know,
producers,
any kind of
Oregon and North
contact.
Carolina.
Do you ever see
Shortage
AD
stems
doing?
from an oversupply of trees just before the recession hit in late 2008.
Wallowing
That
on the
forced many
ground,
growers
talking to
out of the
officials the whole
business.
time.
Now, the remaining farmers are struggling to keep up with demand, and it could take years to catch up since it takes 9 years to grow a Christmas tree big enough to sell. Consumer and Business News, Joe McConnell, NBC News Radio.
Are you taking Viagra for ED? Well, now you can get Sildenafil, the active ingredient in Viagra in generic 20 milligrams for $2 per tablet. That's a savings of $40 per dose. Marley Drug is a North Carolina pharmacy
I was thinking it's
delivering
a little more
generic
old school
Sildenafil
rap
to your
on here, a
door.
little-
For information on
That's
Sildenafil,
Grandmaster
Marley
Flash,
Drug.
the Furious Five.
Or call us at
Nah, 'cause Wobble Wobble Wednesday is local.
6375.
Right. We need a little, like,
that number again.
No, then you're
message.
no, then you're gonna please Clyde. No, we need to ruin Clyde.
Music production
No.
service
Oh, well,
GarageBand.
we gotta
Version
ruin
2.3
Clyde
makes things a
today.
little more versatile, adding a sound library where you can browse and download free instruments and sound packs. Apple now offering a strong array of Asian instruments.
All right, we got Ron.
Apple's core.
I was going to play some Kid Rock, but I was worried that Clyde might actually like Kid Rock, so I decided not to.
It's known for free credit reports and financial advice.
Play whatever
The
Clyde
website
doesn't
wants
like
to be
Thursday.
the center for your.
Just about the room for like 2 seconds, man.
Stepped out of the room, now you come back.
The value of your car.
I know Clyde secretly has like all the Nickelback albums, and then I'm sure he celebrates
what's the
entire
guy's name?
catalog.
Chad
like
what? He's got a poster.
Chad Kroger.
Chad Kroger.
I
was about to say Chad
on his catalog, don't you?
And is offering
That's not nearly Canadian enough.
65-inch 4K.
Clyde's got a
from
Nickelback
Samsung
poster on his wall with him in the same Morton Anderson fishnet.
Ye Homes.
Exactly what he has.
Y'all are all terrible. Y'all are all so terrible.
$50.
That's all right.
Don't hate us because we're right.
Your time to shine's coming. Don't worry.
so much.
Allison
Your
is
time to shine's coming.
and she'd never tell you that. She's humble and perfect. She likes everyone. She even likes her untidy roommate's weird pig. Allison, wait, are you texting and driving? Allison, no. That's the exact opposite of what I was just saying about you. Why, Allison? Why? Texting and driving makes good.
All right, 10 seconds.
Bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
$1,000 in your hand? Sounds good, doesn't it? The next keyword is minutes away on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Duncan Holder, hour number 2. Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdane in our NOLA.com Time-Speaking studios. Our man Dave back in iHeart Central, ruining Clyde's life.
Spinning the junk.
Ruining Clyde's life. And when Clyde stepped out the room, Jeff made a request for some new bumper music. And I said, no, we've got to. That would make Clyde way too happy. We can't, it's ruined Clyde's day.
I wouldn't say that. I would just say
hate Clyde Thursdays.
Well, it's going to get worse because around 11:30ish, Jim Derry is going to pop in our studio and talk a little bit. So you're going to get double dose of Jim Derry this week, Dave.
You know,
so
they
sorry
say
about
absence makes the heart grow fonder, just not in this case.
Just not in this case. Well, joining us right here on the show, without Ron Higgins, we are absent of anything knowledgeable LSU SEC talk. So, of course, Ron Higgins, our LSU SEC columnist here at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Hey, Ron, how are you this week? Have you heard enough about LSU Alabama in the last 2 weeks? Or, is that just that storyline's probably fading out in Baton Rouge? No, everyone's kind of, no one's talking about it anymore, right?
I've really kind of had enough of it. I was trying to figure out ways that LSU could beat Alabama, and the only way I could determine they can do it is if Nick Saban decides to rehabilitate Les Miles' career and name him offensive coordinator of Alabama. That's the only way.
Yeah, but they might still run through LSU, so that might be Les's ultimate revenge. You never know.
Well, he ought to know he can just hand off on LSU and win like they did in the past. So, but this year might be a little more interesting. Hopefully, LSU's offense can make it slightly more interesting and see if Alabama will get confused for maybe 3 or 4 plays, and LSU gets some points and kind of go from there. So we'll see what happens. But Alabama's trailed like 2 minutes and 40 seconds all year. So I don't know if I hold out much hope for LSU going in there and getting a win, but I'd like to see them make it a game. That'd be nice.
Ron, I tell you, Larry and I were talking on the show yesterday. The one thing I think LSU has going for them in this game is nobody thinks they're going to win this game. I mean, they're 21-point underdogs. They're playing in Tuscaloosa. They've lost 6 in a row. If I'm Coach Orgeron and his staff, I'm just letting it fly. And these guys should play loose and really they have nothing to lose in this game. I know it's a big game in the SEC West, but no one's expecting them to win this game. They should be loose and can kind of have a go-for-broke mentality.
Well, I think they do. We talked to the players this week, and I wrote about that basically, they really do have nothing to lose. This is one of those years where they have nothing to lose, and they shouldn't be uptight about this. I don't think their players are taking that attitude. Man, let's just go in there and play and have fun and see what happens, and just let it rip. That is one I guess storyline that hasn't been there in years past. In years past has been, you know, when Les was there, they were so uptight about playing Alabama that they just tightened up almost every year. You know, and in the end, never got the job done the last 5 times. And last year with Ed, they were 10-0 and couldn't move the ball. Played great, magnificent defense. So yeah, that they can just let it rip this year. I mean, they have nothing to lose. You know, and they're not even thinking about the fact that if they happen to win the game, that they'd be in the driver's seat in the SEC West, which would be stunning for a team that lost to Troy. But they're not even thinking that way, and they shouldn't think that way. I mean, after the Troy game is basically, let's get back on our feet one game at a time, all the way to the end. I think that's why they look at it.
Ron Higgins, LSU XCC columnist for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Look, we know that Nick Saban knows that LSU will try to use Darius Geis, and Nick Saban has seen this rodeo before. If LSU continues the same strategy of trying to ground and pound, I think they've got that one down pat. Now, we could say Danny Etling, this game is on his shoulders as far as they've got to be able to make some plays. But at times, Ron, you look at Danny and he might take one read and it might be a little panic. I mean, how much do you think that Danny needs to go in here, calm his nerves, and be able to kind of go through his progressions if it's more than one or two, and try to make a play or two to keep Alabama at least honest on the defensive side of the football?
Well, I think it will help Danny greatly if he gets pass protection. I mean, it's pretty much proven his stats are pretty darn good when he gets protection. When he's not, it's all over the place. And that's one thing Orgeron emphasized from the very first day this week. We got to protect Danny Etling. 2 weeks ago against Ole Miss, he didn't get much protection in the first half. He got sacked 3 times and was 3 for 6. In the second half, didn't throw a lot, but threw effectively because he got better protection. They've got to pass protect for the guy. They've got to, and hopefully that LSU can break Alabama's defensive discipline with all those shifts and motions, and maybe taking their eyes off the right place and put them in the wrong place, and just kind of get Alabama just kind of out of position. That's one thing about Alabama's defense. They're never friggin' out of position ever. They're always in the right slots, man. They're never in the wrong. They're really in the wrong place, and that comes from great coaching and great discipline. And so this was, one of the reasons Orgeron hired, Matt Cannon was to put an offense in that would be deceptive enough to make Alabama think about what LSU was doing instead of just sitting there and stopping them. And if they can kind of make Alabama move around a little bit, hopefully Etling can get some protection and make some throws. Because I think when he has time, he's pretty good. But there's a lot of times this year he hadn't had time.
Yeah, Ron, I tell you, the one question I have, I asked Chris Dade this the other day, and it's the one question I have as we get ready to go over there this weekend and watch this game is, does the LSU team believe they can win this game? And I know that's kind of a silly, big-picture question, but look, no one on this team has ever beaten Alabama. Half the battle in beating them is believing you can win because they have that mystique about them, playing them there in Tuscaloosa. What are the players sounded like to you this week? I mean, do they sound like they actually believe they can go over there and pull off this upset?
They sound like, let's just play and bring it on. I mean, I think they're overly confident, but they're not scared either. Just like, let's go play, see what happens. I mean, I think there's like you just talked at the beginning, just a let-it-rip mentality. Let's go at it. We're not, we're not scared of them. We lost to them 10-0 last year and had no offense. Let's just go out and play it. I mean, every year is a different year. Each year has its own characteristics, and I think they look at it that way. I don't think there's any hangover on this team from past years. I really don't. I mean, I think every year is a separate year with them. I don't think the losing streak weights upon them. I think they just, a lot of these players had nothing to do with losing streaks. I mean, and a lot of them, like Geis has only carried twice against Alabama's career. That was last year. So, I mean, he really hadn't played against Alabama. And, I think he's, fired up and can't wait to get at it. So, I think they're confident. They're not going in there thinking they're doomed. They're going in there thinking they're going to get off the plane and think they're going to try to win the game.
Ron, you mentioned an interesting point that I didn't even think about because it's been Leonard Fournette so much. And how much do you think that even though they've seen probably Darius Geis take every snap in his entire career, but what do you think that having him never really play against Alabama, how much of an advantage is that for LSU?
Well, I think in move one, I know Darius will be fired up. I know that. I know, Nick's very aware of guys. So listen, I mean, LSU, Nick started scouting LSU. I mean, actually, he started scouting Canada's offense last spring. In summer, had his coaches look at it. I mean, they worked on it some in the spring a little bit against LSU's new offense when Canada had at Pittsburgh. But he's well aware of guys, but it's going to take more than guys to get this thing done. I mean, LSU's playmakers are going to have to come to the forefront besides guys. I mean, Sark's going to have to have a good game, and Russell Gage is supposedly healthy. He has to have a good game. If they get in field goal range, Connor Culp has to nail all the field goals like he did. He's done past several games. I mean, they don't have much wiggle room for any kind of margin of error, and they've got to do almost everything right. And certainly having Geis as a first timer, I think Geis is really looking forward to this challenge of being out there in an extended period instead of like just 2 snaps last year. And then his first season, he was a kick returner against them, but only had 2 snaps.
Ron, I want to switch gears with you real quick before we let you go. What is your take on Florida moving on from Jim McElwain? I don't think I saw that coming 3 or 4 weeks ago. You knew he needed to win, but I didn't see him being the first SEC coach to be let go.
Yeah, I mean, I think McElwain's probably more upset that Butch Jones wasn't fired first. I mean, really. I don't know how Butch Jones does a job. The whole McElwain thing is, I mean, it kind of goes beyond what's going on the field, and I think the fact that they've had a lot of trouble off the field. I think McElwain ended his career with 16 SEC wins. He's had 15 players arrested at the same time, same period. That's not even counting the credit card fraud this year. He's had that. He's not really well liked in the athletic department. He kind of came into the job bitching about Florida's inferior facilities and how they needed this and needed that. That didn't sit well with the people in the athletic department. And I think they saw a team got to be 42-zip, didn't have a clue what it was doing offensively. It's had quarterback problems all year, never really gotten better. And with the amount of talent in the state of Florida in high school football, it's almost inexcusable that they're that bad. And I think that ultimately was the decision. We shouldn't be this bad. We're in a state that has the best football talent in America, and we should get enough of it to be better than this. In the end, that was what kind of got him.
Ron Higgins, LSU SEC columnist, right here on Dunc and Holder. Of course, works for us here at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Hey, Ron, appreciate it. And look, maybe you and Jeff will see miracles happen. I feel like someone said that maybe last week that this was like the United States playing Russia in hockey in 1980. I think someone said that on the radio last week. And do we believe in miracles? I don't know. Do we? Jeff, do you believe in miracles? I don't know.
I believe in miracles, but just not against Nick Saban.
So there are no miracles. So Saban is now the Russians, and we're the lowly Americans. And as far as in LSU country,
just as long as before deadline, I believe in miracles.
Well, Jeff usually needs a miracle to make deadline, as I'm sure our boss. Man. Oh, look at this! Marcus is in the room and he's nodding his head. Yes.
What deadline? What is deadline? I've never even heard of that word.
Exactly. Hey, Ron, appreciate it as always. We're gonna stay on LSU Alabama talk. Sorry, Jim Derry, who's sitting patiently waiting. We're gonna have Dennis Dodd, CBSSports.com, national college football writer, is going to join us. We'll talk LSU Bama, and then we will get to Jim Derry's high school game of the week. Now he's throwing things. So anything we could do to anger Clyde and Jim Derry today, we're doing our best.
And yet, literally, we are probably the 2 most people who probably bring the heat on this show. So I don't think you should do that.
Yeah, I bring ice cold. I bring no heat.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're like a bucket of ice water.
Exactly. I'm kind of cold in here right near Sports 12 and NOLA.com.
Creed.
Not even the good Creed, the bad Creed.
Exactly.
We're off the rails.
This is awesome. Duncan Holder. Sorry, dude.
No, Dennis. $1,000.
Told you not to screw with me,
I
Clyde.
think you got booted. I think you got booted from the show.
Bills to 200.
I think they booted you.
Text confirming entry plus iHeartRadio info, standard data, and message rate supply. That's Bills.
What are we doing?
200.
Dodd's coming in. Darius
Yeah, I'm calling Dodd now, right?
Cannon and Box Office Giants. That's the second annual Wine on the River, November 11th at Audubon Aquarium Plaza. Get your ticket at wineontheriver.NOLA.com. Presented by Southern Glazers, WGNO, and NOLA 38.
So wait, it's not you? No, he's gonna be on the radio.
Is he here?
How did you get so?
The wait is almost over for Maroon 5's forthcoming album, Red.
Yeah, I'm calling Dodd now, right?
Was released, the Pop Robbers gave fans a new song titled Wait. It's the group's sixth release this year.
Absolutely.
Clyde's like taking over the show.
Like 17.
Clyde has become
meetings today. By the way,
I was too late. A shadow of what I was.
Chance the Rapper is starring in an upcoming horror film. The trailer for Slice was dropped on Halloween with a 2018 release date.
Yeah, okay. In that game tonight?
The trailer looks like the old video game Line Rider, with a moped driving on and jumping off various lines.
Who'd you pick?
Legendary actor Dustin Hoffman is facing sexual harassment claims. A woman says she was an intern for the 1985 movie Death of a Salesman when she says
All right, we got Dodd.
Cool.
harassed her. In a guest column in The Hollywood Reporter, she says when she was 17, Hoffman repeatedly talked about sex in front of her and grabbed her backside. Hoffman's now apologizing for the alleged behavior, saying he's sorry for anything he might have done. And Brad Paisley tells Rolling Stone he and Carrie Underwood will be honoring the victims of the mass shooting in Las Vegas during the CMA Awards. The CMA Awards air live from Nashville's
I love how my
Bridgestone Arena
NFL
next
picks
Wednesday
column
night
gets
on
featured
NBC.
on the homepage.
That's entertainment.
Nothing
Sharon Reed,
for the
NBC
Gleason
News
story.
Radio.
Got no play. Even though I asked him 3 times. It's like 50 times better.
Where
story.
life expresses
It's
itself
like 4
as an
days on that
endless
story.
flow of energy.
Got nothing.
Are you
And then I get
ready?
NFL picks.
Atlantis,
Crank out like 2 hours.
Bahamas at heart.
Book by November 15th for the best winter rates at 1-800-Atlantis or AtlantisBahamas.com.
30 seconds.
Habitat for Humanity builds houses and so much more. A Habitat build site is where hanging a door opens a world of opportunity, where turning a screw turns the page, and where a simple key can unlock a brighter future. You see, Habitat for Humanity builds houses and so much more.
Here we go.
Visit habitat.org to learn more.
This is Duncan Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back, Duncan Holder. Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan here with you, and pleased to be joined by Dennis Dodd, CBSSports.com, national college football columnist. And Dennis, I know you've seen plenty of LSU Bama games over the past few years, and as much as we've been talking about this game, every time we get into it, I feel like, oh, maybe LSU has a chance. Then the next person we talk to, well, maybe LSU's going to lose by 20. Then the next person, well, maybe LSU's going to lose by 30. Just what are your thoughts going into this game, given how well Alabama's played all year and how up and down LSU has been, of course, this entire season?
Well, the storyline is the spread to start. What is it, 24.5 or whatever it was, 20? It's the largest in, I guess, I can't remember what I read, decades. I mean, it's the longest in biggest in a long time. So that's the story, that this game on paper before the season, well, here we go, LSU, Alabama again. This could be another classic. Not this time. It doesn't look like Alabama coming off a bye. LSU has lost 6 in a row, I guess. It eventually got less fired this game. So, no, it does not look good. And I start digging down on Alabama's running back depth. They're 5 deep, guys. I can't think of a team ever being 5 deep that all play. And this is Alabama's best rushing year under Nick Saban by far. It isn't even close. They're averaging almost 300 yards per game, 7th in the country. And that's not even including, or that, that's without talking about Jalen Hurts, who actually has the most carries on the team. So it doesn't look good.
Dennis, in light of that, and I think we all agree Alabama seems like the best team in the country again, were you surprised that Georgia was ranked ahead of them in the first college football playoff rankings?
No, I had Georgia ahead of them in my humble little top 25 I do every week. And I'll tell you why. Alabama was off. So it was a bye week, so there was nothing there to judge them on. Georgia played, obviously, I would argue it's been more consistent, better win, better schedule, better win. That Notre Dame thing gets better and better. Not that Alabama struggled, maybe in the A&M game, but I found out, you probably saw this week, Alabama's 8 opponents to date do not have a single vote in the AP poll. So some of that's, not their fault. They knocked out Francois and made them a 2-5 team. So, but I have no problem with Georgia being number one. Not that it matters. This with the playoff today, there's the 4, and then you got to go play. So it doesn't really matter if you're number one because we have a playoff.
Dennis Dodd, CBSSports.com, National College Football columnist, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Dennis, obviously the ups and downs of Coach O has been a national storyline. Look, if we would have had you on a month ago, we would have been talking about getting rid of him, and now somehow he's been able to right the ship. Just your thoughts on the overall roller coaster ride that has been LSU so far this season.
Well, for me, it's been fascinating. I was there the Monday. I came in the Monday after the Troy game, and to write the story, that a lot of people wanted to happen. 5 games into a five-year contract, they wanted to get rid of him, which was unimaginable. But in the SEC culture, that's the way it goes. And then Troy goes out the next Wednesday, loses by double digits at home to South Alabama, and you're going, what's going on here? And LSU rights itself. It looks pretty good, and it looks pretty good right now. So it's going to be a process. Coach O's going to stay. Coach O's going to recruit, which he does very well. And I think the best thing to say is LSU has stabilized itself for now, but in a league, not counting LSU, in a league where half the coaches are either fired now, going to be fired at the end of the year, or under extreme scrutiny, it's weird to be in the SEC right now. 6 coaches are either fired, going to be fired, or on the hot seat.
Dennis, I want to go back to the college football rankings again. We all know the history of the first poll. Typically isn't the 4 teams left standing when we get to the end. Can you give us a team maybe that's outside that top 4 that might elbow their way into the college football playoff? Maybe somebody that could be a long shot possibility, or somebody that maybe isn't on the national radar right now.
Not even a long shot, and nobody's talking about them. But the easiest road to the playoff, I wrote about it this week, number 9, Wisconsin. Undefeated, likely to finish undefeated without playing a ranked team. The closest they come to that is November 18th against Michigan at home. I don't think Michigan will be ranked at that point. So then you're talking about a Big Ten team, 12-0, having to play a 60-minute do-or-die, loser-leave-town match against Ohio State. I could see Wisconsin winning that game and finishing 13-0 and advancing. So then the question becomes, the further question, is it the 4 best teams? Is Wisconsin at that point one of the 4 best teams when they've missed Michigan State, they've missed Penn State from the other division? And that begs the question of that's going to happen when you have 14-team leagues. It took Wisconsin 4 years to play everybody in the 14-team Big Ten. I think in fact, I know in the SEC it's much longer than that for people to play everybody because you have designated rivals. So, if everybody's willing to accept, Wisconsin is the best team in the Big Ten, I'm not sure it would be, or one of the 4 best in the country, we may have a problem with that.
Dennis, I don't think we've talked about on our show Heisman because we figured Darius Geis would be in the conversation, and that fizzled out quickly here down in southeast Louisiana. But right now, who are your front runners in the Heisman, and maybe who's someone we're not talking about that could maybe etch a spot in New York in a month?
Yeah, the Baker Mayfield, JT Barrett shot to the top of the list this week after that performance against Penn State. Last 16 completions, fourth quarter comeback. Last 6 games, 22 touchdowns, no interceptions. And he'd been there before. 2-time Big Ten quarterback of the year, finished 5th in the Heisman 3 years ago, so we know how good he is. I've got Baker Mayfield there, and I've got Khalil Tate, a statistical wonder out of Arizona, who just burst on the scene about 5 games ago. He was averaging like 12 yards per rush, and no one's been able to stop him yet. So, and they're playing at USC basically for the South Division title this week. So I would watch Bedlam this week. Oklahoma State. At least our people, our NFL people, have had in the last week both Baker Mayfield and Mason Rudolph, the Oklahoma State quarterback, the #1 pick in the draft next spring. And they're going to be facing each other. That's a fascinating matchup, whether it's the draft, those two teams, or Heisman. I think that's fascinating.
Dennis, you talked earlier, you alluded to the Florida situation. Obviously, Jim McElwain being let go. There's going to be some more movement at some of the major programs, not only in the SEC, but around the country. Who are some of the top young coaches that might be in line for some of these jobs in the SEC and some major college programs later on?
Well, it's going to be a bidding war, I think, between Florida and Nebraska for Scott Frost. I'm hearing rumblings that they have kind of targeted him now. I don't know that for sure, but he is the next hot guy. 42 years old, undefeated at UCF. Obviously, former player, national champion at Nebraska. Recruited and coached at Oregon, and coached Mariota the year he won the Heisman. They went to the champ game in, I want to say 13. It was 13, I think, and is now doing great things in his second year. Matt Campbell at Iowa State, and I wrote about them this week. I don't know if there's a spot for him. He's 37 years old. I don't know if there's a spot for him this year in his second year at Iowa State. They're 6-2 and tied for the Big 12 lead with 5 weeks to go. I don't think he fits the SEC culture. He's from Ohio, went to Division III, Mount Union, doing great things at Iowa State. So I think he stays put this year. But young guys. I don't know if there aren't any young guys. Justin Fuentes, the only other guy who may be tempted to leave Virginia Tech after 2 years if something better comes along. But if you're sitting there and you're Justin Fuente and Tennessee calls, you might say you got it better at playing in the Coastal Division of the ACC, where you can get to that champ game. They're within 7 points of Clemson last year, and it is to figure out what the heck is going on at Tennessee, because it's a mess right now.
Dennis Dodd, CBSSports.com national college football columnist. Hey, Dennis, appreciate the time, and good catching up with you. Been a long time.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis.
All right, guys. Yep, it sure is. Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, you got it. Dennis Dodd, CBSSports.com national college football
he's on top of
columnist.
It, man.
Well, of course. That's why he's been – how long has he been the national columnist for CBS Sports? As long as probably the website's existed.
Yeah, well over a decade.
Absolutely. Well, probably
2 decades.
2 decades at this rate? Yeah.
We're getting old, and we're starting to veer into the Drew Brees. Thanks, by the way, Clyde, on that you put together that Drew.
You're welcome, bro.
If you haven't seen it, Clyde, why don't you tweet it back out again?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I will do that. I have that. It's just so happened that you say that I have it pulled up right here. So let me do that.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Of course he does. So coming up next here on the show, Jim Derry, of course, our preps guru here at NOLA.com. Is he really?
Come in here.
Do we have a live studio audience in here?
Come in here.
My goodness.
That was a laugh track for this terrible music and all this today.
Exactly. So Jim's going to come on here. We're going to get 2 doses of Jim this week. So he'll come up and talk about the big prep football matchup tonight that we're going to have. I mean, what are y'all screaming about? We could hear you. Jeff's leaving the studio. He just left. See ya.
You know he's got to go do, dude.
I know.
He's got to go.
It's Tinkle time here on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
More terrible Creed. Stop it.
The mic can pick up me pouring my drink in. You don't think it can pick up?
Yeah, it can. It's really you got an extra fizzy mouth.
Well, and when you crack your knuckles, it's
I was down here. I was looking at
to do it. Shelby Latino, and we'll see a mix of.
You were shaking the whole damn table with your typing.
I can hear him through my headset.
Temperatures will climb into the low 80s this afternoon and drop into the 70s this evening.
Jim,
By tomorrow morning, temperatures will be in the 60s on both sides of.
Hey, what's up, Gary? Keep playing that terrible music, Dave.
As humidity remains high. Temperatures will climb into the low 20s for Friday.
Going on to it was going to get ready to do
patchy fog could be an issue.
What's the song you hate the most?
What is the song I hate the most?
Yeah.
I could do something with it.
Let me think.
There's the top doctors, nurses, and other health professionals nationwide. It could be yours too.
White Christmas.
Warehouse and other
That's the song I hate the most.
No, it's not.
I just want to see if he has the balls to play it.
No, we can't play.
I got the balls to play anything. Don't mess with me, man.
Phil, the
I'm gonna play terrible music.
I'll play Thanksgiving music.
On
There
YouTube.
is no such thing.
You can say that on there.
I actually like Creed and Nickelback, so you did me a favor today.
Yeah, Jerry, you just jacked up all the way in the high top five now.
Thanks, Jim.
Ron used the verb.
Play some Pantera. That would be even better.
There you go.
That's where I'm at.
Ron said bitching on the air. So what's
That's not terrible. You can say that to me.
I'll call my brother-in-law. He can sing it for us.
Please.
Oh my gosh! All that screaming going on
Learn the
in my
signs
ears.
at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Crazy Thursday.
Put $1,000 in your hand. Win
I did not expect it to be
every hour, up to 16 times a day. Weekdays, starting
That's good.
at 5 a.m. When you hear the keyword, text it to
Means we
200
got a ton to talk about.
Listen all
Like,
day.
lots
for
of
a
people
chance
talk
to
about
put
it with.
$1,000 in your hand
For a
on
Thursday.
Sports 1280.
Yeah, usually
New
Thursdays
Orleans.
are pretty jammed, but it like avalanched on me today.
My son Aiden has asthma. Secondhand
I didn't
smoke
know
has
Dennis
shaken
was
his
gonna come
asthma
on.
so badly
Got back to me at
he ended up in
10:15
the
in the
emergency
show.
room
Like,
and
no, I
spent
just reached
multiple
out a
nights
couple
in
days
intensive
ago,
care.
and then Jarrett the
Now
same way.
he's on a whole
Like, he
bunch of
reached out to me late
medications.
last night. Like,
My
I can
tip
make
to
it.
you
I'm like,
is
well, I'm not gonna.
don't be shy about telling
I'm not
people
gonna say,
not
oh,
to
no,
smoke
let's wait till
around
Friday.
your
No,
kids.
we'll just.
Half of U.S.
Yeah,
kids
yeah,
are
yeah.
exposed to secondhand smoke. If you or someone you know wants help, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and CDC.
Pretty loud.
Here we go. Talk about my age again.
It's your home. This is where you talk the home teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back, Duncan Holder. Awesome show so far today.
Not really, if you think about it. Terrible music choices. Now we got Jim on. It's just bad.
Anywho,
You're in deep trouble.
if you've missed any of our show, sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube page. You can check it all out. You remember that the symphonic voice of one Jim Derry jumping in. He's literally in Jeff's seat. Jeff just like got up and he's just standing on the side, just letting us take over.
Dave asked me what was my least favorite song, and I didn't tell him. I think he came real close.
I found it. I know everyone's weakness.
Real close.
Oh boy! All right, let's herd the cats together, Dave. Jim, probably one of, if not the biggest prep football matchup you've got all year, and we're going to be airing it live on NOLA.com, Game of the Week, and we wanted to make sure you got you on today. And of course, we'll do our full breakdown of the prep weekend tomorrow. But what's coming up tonight on NOLA.com?
I think it is the biggest game that we've had all year. In fact, I think it's unquestionably the biggest game we've had all year, and it might be the biggest game in the metro area all season long. Carr and Warren Easton will play tonight at Tad Gormley Stadium. Regis Radiator, NOLA.com, first prep game of the week. We have a doubleheader again this week in Week 10. I can't believe it's Week 10 already, but you know, the winner of this game will be the top seed in Class 4A, and the loser will probably be the third seed or so. And it's a matchup between two district rivals who know a whole lot about each other, and they both know about being in the Dome. One especially who's been in the Dome, I believe it's 6 out of the last 7 years in Carr, and Warren Easton, who has been a force the past few years. We're in the Dome a couple years ago. Last year, surprisingly, made it to the semifinals. So. And lost to Neville, who ended up losing to Carr in the Dome. So I think this is just the first matchup of the year between these two teams. I think they'll meet up again in December at some point, whether it be the semifinals or the championship, depending on the final seeding. But you know, Lance Lejeune, quarterback for Warren Easton, is kind of taking over the role as the new Keaton Thompson. He plays a lot like him. He has the same kind of arm, same vision, can run just as well as Keaton ran. And Warren Easton, just along both fronts, just been dominating so far. I've had him the #1 team in Class 4A all year long, except for 1 week when I think 35 bumped up for 1 week. But, you know, it's going to be a titanic matchup, and Clyde Verdano will be with me tonight. Facebook Live, and we're trying out a new video software program that should clear up our audio woes for some of those of you who have been listening to us. We think we've got the problem solved.
And we're going to learn in the next hour, so it's going to be great.
We're going to do a trial run this time.
Is it going to be on NOLA.com? We're going to just hear y'all
No, it will be on NOLA.com. A stream from Facebook Live will be posted and embed into a post onto NOLA.com, so you can either watch it on our Facebook Live page or you can watch it on NOLA.com, either way, and listen to it. And as always, through our Mixel app, for those of you that just like to click on it and listen to it and have been listening to the Mixel app, we get a pretty good response through there. So it's been a good season thus far, and we're going to finish off the regular season in style as we go to the playoffs.
Which game you got tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night we will be on the North Shore at Jack Salter Stadium. Mandeville facing off against Covington, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow in the show. But you know, Covington is 9-0. They have a chance to go undefeated for the first time in 29 years, and in the regular season. And Mandeville, which looked to be just, they had all the, we've talked about their woes and all the issues that they've had, but they have completely turned it around, and they are going to be a really tough team to play tomorrow night in Covington. It's at Covington, and it's the regular season finale for, you know, those of you that follow prep football, you know who Devin Brumfield is, and he is the, along with Puka Williams, the two top running backs in the metro area, if not the state. He's inching up. I think he's about 150 yards away from 6,000 for his prep career, and he is a load. And tomorrow night, I'm sure there'll be a lot of tears. He's been playing since he was a freshman. I've been hearing about him since he was in 8th grade, and he'll play his regular season finale tomorrow night at Jack Salter Stadium.
Well, Corey Johnson's texting me, and he's of course wanting a De La Salle shout out. They play at Pan Am tonight. Who do they play?
They do. They play Donaldsonville in their regular season finale, and it would be I got to give, you know, we've had this thing with Cavs Nation, and they've brought me on. I see Jim Rapier sitting over there. Cavs Nation has brought me on and welcomed me on the bandwagon, and the Cavaliers are going to roll tonight, and I can't wait to see what they do in the playoffs. They just might roll through Division II. Who knows?
All right, well, we'll talk with Jim again tomorrow to get the rest of the breakdown of all the other big games. And, Jim, so what, 10:45 as usual tomorrow, right?
10:45 tomorrow. We'll have all the games covered for you tonight. There are only a handful of games on Thursday night tonight, and just a few on Saturday. So just about everybody's playing tomorrow night. But tonight's the biggie, the doozy. You don't want to miss it. So catch, even if it's for a little while, make sure you catch us for a little while on NOLA.com, the Regis Radiator, first game of doubleheader. Game of the week.
Carr and Warren Easton.
Carr and Warren Easton.
There we go. All right, Jim. Appreciate it as always, buddy. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
And we'll have Coach Salt with us doing the color analysis. That's always fun.
Absolutely. So one final segment here on the show, college pick'em time. After the pain and misery of Clyde, it's now his time to shine since he's great at college picks and I stink terrible.
You are bad.
So that's... This is glorious. This is the greatest show of my life. Hanson, Boombop, glory.
I'm not even offended by this. This is all right.
Bye, Dave.
I once claimed one of the middle-aged...
He said he likes it. I got to change it.
No, I said I liked it. The middle-aged kid I said was on a radio show one time. He looked like a pretty little boy. So it was... He's too pretty, this guy who sings this song. So here we go. On that note, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. I'm going to jail, and it's Dunc and Holder.
Bop.
Yeah.
Great job, Dan.
The passion.
Inbound appraisal.
Now, Larry, as your lawyer, I want to let you know I'm going to go ahead and delete that last segment.
You delete nothing.
What's that?
You delete nothing.
As your lawyer, I'm going to have to go back and delete that, what you just said.
That he was a pretty little boy.
He was a pretty little boy.
But now he's like 35. So I was about, when that song came out, I was probably 16, so it's okay.
Now he's getting early bird specials.
That's
Early
right.
birds
Yes.
until 1 p.m. to save big and take an extra 20% off. With an extra 20% off, men's vests are just $14.39. Juniors boots are $27.99, and mini kitchen electrics are only $10.39. Plus, only at Kohl's, get Kohl's Cash to spend on your next purchase. Presents for them, Kohl's Cash for you. Give joy, get joy. This Saturday only at Kohl's.
Select styles, 20% offer valid November 1st to 7th with
It-
promo
no,
code
it-
20.
it
Some
went-
exclusions apply.
it
See
went
store or
later.
Kohls.com for details.
The hospitality and tourism
I kept
industry
trying
is
to
more
stay awake.
vibrant and alive in New Orleans than almost anywhere else in
It
the
was
country.
past 11.
Would you or someone
Past
you
11.
know like to get in on the excitement? Delgado Community College is offering an 8-week training course
All right, Clyde,
for
you got
18
picks
to
ready?
24-year-olds who want careers in the hospitality
Yeah, I
and
did.
tourism industry.
Yes.
The program
You're
is
still not
offering
going to
job
get what you
placement
want, though.
And stipend payments during training to eligible applicants. Go to DCC.
I'm Judge, Jury, and
A
Executioner.
message from Sports 1280 Communities.
I'm not
I went
Judge
1 and
Judy
12
and
on my NFL
Executioner.
picks against
That
the
doesn't
Rams.
make sense.
Millions
1
of
and
children
12.
around the world orphaned, abandoned.
I mean, the only game I won was the Monday night game. I was 0 and 12.
Is there in 134 countries, including the U.S. To make a difference in a child's life, go to SOSUSA.
I know, I couldn't believe it. It was almost
Put
impossible.
$1,000 in your hand.
If you had just
Win
bet against me
$1,000
last week, you'd have
every
made
hour,
millions.
up to 16
You'd
times
have
a
done
day.
parlays.
Weekdays, starting at 5 a.m. When you hear the
I
keyword,
was over
text
500
it to
going
200
into
200.
the
Listen
week. Yeah,
all
I was
day
doing well.
for a chance to put $1,000
Bottomed
in your
out.
hand on Sports 1280.
Yep.
New Orleans.
This week, yeah, we gotta crush the Bucks. Yeah, well, that was a 50-50 game. I would never bet that. I don't bet any games anymore.
Dunc and Holder now. Josh Shinnis next at noon on Sports 1280. New Orleans.
I never knew Nickelback had so many songs.
I don't understand the hatred. They're awesome.
No, they're
I
not.
agree, Dave.
They are. No.
They're glorious.
Any band that says on record, on wax, that they studied the last 50 years of popular music and then basically fashion their entire catalog around that gets no respect. You gets no love.
They get a lot of money, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, and apparently getting married to Avril Lavigne is also a cool thing too.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You hate Avril Lavigne too?
I don't. No. Hate. I did not say that. I'm just saying.
I always think Avril Lavigne is Fiona Apple. I think they're the same person.
They are not the same person.
Close enough. All right, Clyde, your time to shine. Your ears are bleeding, but you're still winning the picks, but that's okay.
They are. So, guys, let's get into this week. We're going to just roll right through it, seeing as how it's already 11:46.
It's just an action-packed show today.
Action-packed show. A lot of great guests. All right, guys, so we're going to start out here with big matchup. You know, I think it was really good having Dennis not on because I think he talked about a lot of the matchups that we're going to talk about today. First one out of the gate, Penn State at Michigan State. Penn State is an 8-point favorite on the road going to the Banks of the Red Cedar.
The Banks of the Red.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't either.
The Red Cedar is in East Lansing. That's the river that goes through East Lansing. The Banks.
Does it have lead in it?
No, I don't think so.
I want the home team getting the points. Bring Michigan State, right?
Yes. Penn State.
Sparty.
Yeah, 8 points.
Sparty, man. Mark D'Antonio is a good coach.
I
He'll keep it close.
think Penn State bounces back, and so I'm going to go Penn State minus what, 8.5?
Yes. No, it's just 8. It's just 8.
Minus 8, even better. So when they win by 8.5, I win.
That's also true. I'm also going with. I think Penn State bounces back too. Last weekend was such a crazy game with Ohio State, and I mean, obviously, it propelled JT Barrett into the conversation for the Heisman. All right, guys. Next game, Virginia Tech, another hot name, Justin Fuente, as we heard about. Virginia Tech at Miami. Virginia Tech is a 2.5-point favorite.
That can't be right. I think he messed that up again.
I can read Jeff.
Virginia Tech is favored at Miami. Miami unbeaten. Miami.
Well, Miami's not exactly
They're not
some
yeah.
big-time home field advantage.
Also true.
That looks like a trap game. Recognize the trap. Use the trap to your advantage.
Use the trap to your advantage.
So that means I'm going to dive right into the trap, and I'm going to take Virginia Tech. I'm doing it.
No, Virginia Tech would actually be you recognizing the other side of the trap. You're being smart.
I don't know where the trap is.
This
Virginia
is legit.
Tech is favored.
Virginia Tech is a 2.5-point favorite on the road to Miami.
That's a classic trap, Virginia Tech. That's a classic. They're trying to lure you into take Miami. It's
well, why wouldn't you?
I don't know the trap.
Because it's a trap. It's the classic bear trap in the woods.
Larry?
I already said it. Virginia Tech, man. I'm Justin Fuente for life. That guy's
he's
great.
a stud.
I believe in Mark Richt. I'm going with Miami.
No, that's a bad belief.
Here we go. All right, guys. Next game, big rivalry, Bedlam. It's this weekend. Oklahoma at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is a 3-point favorite.
Where's this game?
It's in
Stillwater.
It's in Stillwater.
Lovely, scenic Stillwater.
I think Oklahoma State's going to get it done. So I'm going to be going with Mason Rudolph in the quarterback gun show out there.
Shout out to Hideaway
The
Pizza.
gun show.
It's
Fantastic.
the gun
We
show.
have a gun show in here in the studio every day.
No, we don't. Who's?
Larry and I.
I don't have guns.
Larry and I.
Oh boy.
No
What's your pick?
chance.
What's your pick, Jeff?
Along with Sir Lawrence, I'm taking the home team. T. Boone Pickens.
I'm actually again going against this one. I think Oklahoma 3 points. I think Oklahoma can get it done on the road.
We're going to catch
You're
Clyde.
wrong again, Clyde.
We're going to catch him.
We're going to
Clyde's been
see.
wrong every game this
We're
week.
going to see. All right, guys. The next game after this, Clemson, a 7-point favorite on the road at NC State.
NC State. Not to win, but NC State.
Wait, who's favored in NC State?
Clemson.
Clemson is.
By a touchdown.
By a touchdown.
I like Clemson. Clemson's defense, they're rising up. They're going to be in the playoff.
Rise up like the Falcons.
They're rising up, baby.
Clemson, you're going with NC State.
Yes.
Although NC State is pretty salty.
Yeah, but Notre Dame, they beat up
I know.
NC State pretty
Right.
handily, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going with Clemson as
Notre
well.
Dame's good.
Yeah,
I picked
Notre Dame
NC State last week. It burned me, but I'm going to go back to them.
Yeah, you would like to go back into that bear pit. All right, next game, obviously the number one team in the nation according to the college football playoff poll, Georgia hosting South Carolina. Georgia, 24 points. 24-point favorite over South Carolina.
Lay the lumber with the Bulldogs. I'm not a believer in South Carolina at all.
You're not down with the fighting
You know why?
champs?
They lost to Kentucky. That's all I need to know.
That's also
Anybody
true.
that lost to
That's accurate,
Kentucky
yeah.
cannot be any good. Georgia.
I will go
Oh, gosh.
South Carolina.
Oh, boy.
Just complete coin flip here.
Absolutely
A
have
lot of
nothing.
strategy involved. I'm sure our listeners are going to weigh heavily on that.
Why do you think we in the Breeders' Cup segment I have them leaning on anything anybody tells me? I'm just going to do it.
Kirby Smart obviously taking a page out of Nick Saban's playbook, saying that the number one ranking for Georgia is going to be the biggest distraction that he has to deal with his team. That's why I'm going with Georgia as well on this one.
That's fine. I'm with the Fighting Mush champs. I'm in.
I love how Clyde makes his pick and then writes it down. Like he has to write it down.
I have to. I mean, I just have to
He's
make
gotta
sure.
document it.
Yes, I got to document. It's my job, man. All right, guys. Next game, staying in the SEC, Auburn, a 15-point favorite at Texas A&M.
I'm gonna go A&M.
I'm with A&M. I think they cover, lose the game, but keep it close. Kevin Sumlin's on the hot seat, the perpetual hot seat.
See the trap jump over the trap. That's
Yeah.
what I just did.
Yeah, guys, I'm going with you on this one too. I just think that the question is whether or not if this is the game that puts them eventually on that hotter seat, or is this one of those games where they eventually play lights out and actually make it close?
I'll say this: if A&M wins that game, the hot seat's going to be Gus Malzahn's, big time.
And another question, and even a much interesting story, is the idea of Malzahn, if the Arkansas job opening up, him maybe wanting to go to Arkansas. That's where he's from. That's where he coached high school.
Right.
That's where he got a lot of, that's where he kind of made a name for himself. Is that kind of a thing that could happen if they fire Bielema at Arkansas? But that's a story for another day. All right, guys, going out west, a lot of ranked games this weekend, by the way. This one's out west. Stanford at Washington State. Washington State is a 2.5-point favorite in the middle of nowhere.
Is that running back playing? What's his name?
Bryce Love.
Big Love.
Bryce. Hey man, we're not going to play in Utah, okay?
Big Love. What's up with that? So yes, no, I just totally blanked out.
I'm waving
Yes,
the
he
Cougars,
should be playing.
Cougars flag, baby. Mike Leach, in honor of Steve Gleason, one of the great Cougars of all time. Washington State.
That sounds good enough to me. I'll take Washington State. Good enough for me.
Yeah, that's all good answers. I'm going to go with Washington State on this one too, just because of them playing at home.
Did
and
you
it's
write
so
it down?
close. I did.
I don't know.
write it
Did
down.
you document it?
You want me to show you?
Okay, I'm just making sure.
I need to hear the pen stroke on the microphone since we hear your knuckles crack.
Oh, I can
when you do
easily
that.
make that happen, guys. All right, next, third game before we get into our local picks. Another ranked game: Arizona at USC. USC is a 7-point favorite. Arizona, I think, just got into the top 25 this past weekend. They're at number 22 against USC.
I don't trust USC at all anymore. I'm going
They're
Arizona.
playing at home.
It doesn't matter. Sam Darnold.
You taking Rich Rod?
I'm going Rich Rod. Sam Darnold. He'll probably throw 2 picks, and still people will love him. I don't trust USC anymore. So Arizona.
I'm taking the Trojans.
I like where your head's at, Jeff Dunc.
Yeah, I like
where your
the
head's
Trojans
at.
in this game.
Yep, I'm going with USC as well. All right, guys, bringing it back here to the city and the state. Tulane looking to bounce back this weekend, taking on and hosting Cincinnati. Tulane is a 5.5-point favorite in Yeoman.
Look, Todd talked about this. Todd Graffini, he says this is a must-win for Tulane, and they've played well at home. They just about pulled off the upset against South Florida. I'm gonna go Tulane with the win.
Outright,
even though there are the 5-point favorites, but still.
I mean, yeah, what are you talking about? They're favored.
I'm still going to go with the win.
What kind of show is this?
Hey, I think you don't need to ask about what show this is after what we've given people for 2 hours. Like 2 hours of Creed, 2 hours of Nickelback, 2 hours of Maroon 5.
I mean,
and
Jeff
like 20
gets up
guests.
and leaves the show. And so
that's medical basis.
That's the kind of show this is.
I'm taking the Green Wave. They're going to roll. They're going to have that angry wave up there spraying the students.
So for the record, I will say Tulane -5. That's who I'm taking, not just for the win. Just a heads up.
I'm going with Tulane as well. I hope that angry wave is not spraying the students because I just don't think it's going to end well. All right, guys. Now the piece de resistance. The big time matchup on CBS on Saturday.
Do we have a drum roll?
No, we don't. We don't need one, Dave, because I wouldn't trust you to play it anyway.
Can I do the Halloween 3? Can I do that the whole time?
Because it's November, though.
It just passed.
I'm speechless.
All right, guys. Alabama, 21 points. 21 points against LSU this weekend.
I'm going to make it real easy. Alabama's going to win by 30.
See the trap. Recognize the trap.
Amen.
Use the trap to your advantage.
So what does that mean?
That means
I don't know the trap. You tell me what's the trap.
It seems like such a massive line that you'd have to take LSU.
Right.
That's what Vegas is doing. They're basically saying we need the general public, more people to bet on LSU because right now the smart money's on Bama.
Hold on.
That's what's going on.
Hold on. Before we get there, let me just read off the last I just did this. Let me read off the last 6 scores.
You better read it quick.
Yeah, I'm going to read it quick. The last 6 scores
clock is ticking here.
Of this rivalry has been all right. So going back to the national championship game, it's 2012. Alabama 21-0. Alabama 21-17. Alabama 38-17. Alabama 20-13 in overtime. Alabama 30-16, and then last year Alabama 10-0. How is that?
2 minutes.
How is 21 points though in terms of this rivalry, in terms of this series, going to be more of a trap than previous years? I'm just asking.
No, it's a trap because it seems so great because the history of these games being fairly close that it's out of whack, and you think it's got to be LSU, right? Got to take the 21 points. I'm going the other way. I'm going counterintuitively and taking Alabama because I think LSU's going to have trouble breaking 10 in this game. And I think Alabama's going to get some defensive score or some kind of crazy score to boost their scoring.
That's fair.
So Bama.
I'm going to LSU. I'm going to go against the grain. I don't care. I don't think that this game is going to be.
Are you picking them straight up?
No, I just don't think Alabama's going to cover the spread.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, okay. I'm just checking.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're picking Bama straight up. So.
Yes, but I don't think it's 20. I don't think this spread is as great as it's going to be.
I can't believe Larry could pick against his alma mater.
That's easy.
Well, I think he does that with most of. He writes against people. He writes against his alma mater. He writes against the Saints. And look where all these teams are.
No problem. Non-biased over here. Non-biased over here. So, awesome show. Want to thank Ron Higgins, Josh Katzenstein, Jarrett Bell, Dennis Dodd, if you missed any of it, and Jim Derry for jumping in, Chad Scheck-Snyder. I mean, guests galore today on the show.
And a studio audience.
Absolutely. So if you missed any of it, sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube page. And look, I'm not even going to be able to watch much of the game because I've got 2 weddings I've got to go to on Saturday night. So it's not even going to be worth my time.
Life is so hard for you.
Criminally negligent of your friend.
And I'm giving a shout out to Andy and Jill LeBlanc who are driving in from Houston, listening to us on the iHeartRadio app.
20 seconds.
On the way to the weddings this weekend. So good stuff. So packed Friday show as well. Saints Bucks big time preview. So coming up tomorrow. So chime back in. Sports1280NOLA.com and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Great song.
This is glory.
Hi, this is Jennifer
Thanks,
Correa.
Dave.
Thanks for dealing with the carnage.
Disco
You're a stud, bud.
Play better music tomorrow.
Your perfect beat.
Shut your face.
You see a teen or adult collapse from cardiac arrest. You only need
Bye, Clyde. I love you.
Thanks, buddy.
call 911. In the center of